If undisturbed, ammo depots can supply Russian troops with thousands of shells each day. As the Russians' confidence in their especially ill-conceived operation builds, they are oblivious to what lurks nearby. The Russians are bewildered. Some have never even seen a GMLRS before. Even as the full horror unfolds, there is great confusion about just what is going on. And that was just the first attack. 16 HIMARS now live on the Ukrainian front line. And Russian troops react differently to HIMARS than other systems. Even the generals seem unsure of how much danger they're in. But the Russian's evolutionary desire for new laundry machines overcomes any fear he may have. The HIMARS target the depots with surprising ease, virtually turning the depots into assembly lines for new larders. Each evening, the group waits patiently for the time to strike. HIMARS o'clock.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння, різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, everybody. As always, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 184 of the stream.
And of course, we're going to be reporting on the past 24 hours of the war of Ukraine here on day 184. And of course, I haven't said this in a long time because it's almost become de facto at this point. Ukraine has survived another 24 hours. And with these 24 hours, they've brought us some incredibly interesting news. We've actually, like many of y'all may have seen earlier today, have started up the short videos again. They're not going to be like the old ones. We're actually going to try and make them topical, where instead of just showing clips from, I guess, video clips from the war, it more so discusses a particular topic and its impact and effect on what's going on. So hopefully y'all have enjoyed that today, but we're actually going to be starting off tonight's stream with the exact same bit of news. Starting off, not at the Antonovisky bridge like it was on today's video, we're actually going to be starting off at the Nova Khakovka bridge, which we've seen has been hit heavily enough that it has been knocked out of service as well. Unfortunately, this is marked as NSFW. The fourth picture I cannot show on stream, so I can only show y'all the first three. But we can see right here in this picture that there are massive holes in the tarmac on this bridge. And as we go through them, these are the exact same kind of amount of damage, I guess you could say, that was seen on the Antonovisky bridge that would shut it down and lead the Russians into having to use a ferry. And in this third picture, we can once again see the effect of the damage is incredibly considerate and has certainly knocked this bridge out of service. Unfortunately, I can't go to the last two because of what's in those pictures. They are NSFW after all. But still, it is great to see that the Ukrainians have used the HIMARS to great effect and have now knocked out the Nova Khakovka bridge as well. In fact, tonight, I want to make sure to do something a little special so that way we can keep track of these for future reference. We are going to mark every single bridge that the Ukrainians have knocked out in this area with a large red box around them, so that way we can make sure to keep track of which ones are destroyed and which ones are operational. So this one we're going to mark as destroyed. We'll put a little red border around it just like that. We're now going to move further down, and we know that the Antonovsky Railroad Bridge has also been destroyed too, and this was destroyed actually far before either of the other two were destroyed. And so we'll put a little box around that. We'll mark that as destroyed as well. We'll put a little red box around that too. Make it a little bit transparent. Like that. And then, finally, we already know that the Antonovisky Bridge has largely been knocked out, but before I mark this one red today, I have to show y'all why this one's going to especially be marked red today, is because we saw more bridge strikes occurring on the Antonovisky Bridge, this time not on the northern end, but on the southern end of the bridge. And so here's the video of that bridge strike today. You can hear the HIMARS slamming down, and we can see the smoke coming off the bridge, as it's certainly being hit rather heavily. Also, another thing you can see is that you can actually see that, I guess you could say, barge bridge being built alongside the Antonovisky Bridge, and it looks like as of today, it doesn't reach entirely to the other side, and that is why the ferry is still in service. It's because the Russians have not completed this barge bridge that will be tethered to the Antonovisky Bridge. We also have some videos of that yesterday, which we've shown, which we won't go and revisit again today. But here are two other perspectives of this bridge strike that happened today. This one looks like it was taken from the western bank of the river, looking towards the bridge from that direction, somewhere in a neighborhood. We can hear the explosions hitting the bridge, and we can also see it out there in the distance, with large explosions occurring on it pretty decently. The explosions just keep on coming, and also another thing I'd like to focus on is that the weather in this video has changed a pretty good bit. We can see it's overcast and incredibly windy, and that was compared to the last bit of footage, which showed the skies as being clear. And so it appears that not only one HIMARS strike occurred on the bridge today, apparently multiple strikes happened at separate times of the day, considering that the weather's changing in between each video. And so that's the end of this perspective, and we're now going to go on to the last one, our third one, of the bridge being hit. Which actually is the same perspective, it just appears to be in higher definition. I had a feeling when I put these down that I had gotten one of them mixed up, and it was this one. But still, the other one that was supposed to be in this one's place was only about 6 seconds long, and it looked like it was taken from the same perspective as the first one I showed, but it does show that multiple strikes have happened on the Antonovisky Bridge today. That means that although this one was already knocked out beforehand, we are going to put the red box around this one as well, letting us know that all three bridge crossings have been knocked out to the western bank. So this one is destroyed as well. So let's put up the red box. Y'all may remember Redbox here in the United States was a movie rental company, and it looks like they've now gone on to destroying bridges. But anyways, moving on from that cheap joke, we can see that all three of the actual bridges have been knocked out across the Dnipro River, and that means that for right now, for the next few days until that barge bridge is built alongside the Antonovisky Bridge, the ferry will be the only thing that can transport Russian forces from one side of the river to the other, and Russian supplies from one side to the other. It's far more important the supply side of that ferry than anything, because that means that the 10,000 or so troops that are on this side of the river defending the city of Kherson from Ukrainian counterattacks, and the rest of the finger will be relying literally on a ferry to get all of their supplies throughout the entirety of the front line. This is an incredibly precarious situation for these Russians, because that means that the supplies that will actually make it to the front are going to be incredibly small. The Russians may, let's just say hypothetically, they may have the ability to actually supply all of these soldiers in this pocket, but if there's no way to actually get the supplies to them, then it's meaningless. And so even if they do fix the logistics issues due to all of those bridges being knocked out, those soldiers are still going to be under-equipped and starving. And that is great news for the Ukrainians and good news for us, as we'll probably see the Ukrainians start pushing an offensive here in the near future, now that we have confirmation that all 3 bridges have clearly been destroyed. With that, we're now going to be moving up into the northwestern Kherson area, where we can see that some smirches were burning in the distance. Now, it's kind of odd to see that smirches are burning and to only see a picture of them, but according to the caption, here's what's happened that led up to this picture. Today, the Russians wanted to shell Mykolaiv with the smirches, but something went wrong. Ukrainian artillery, quote-unquote, covered them while they were preparing equipment in an open area near Kherson. The smirches are burning, and the occupiers are laying dead around the vehicles. And we're seeing this picture apparently from some high-rises in Kherson City, looking out into the distance where those smirches were hit and are on fire. Now that is great to hear, because we do know that these Russian missile and rocket attacks usually inflict a lot of damage on civilian areas, more so than any military targets that they've ever tried to hit, and so this would have been another group of civilians killed in this war. And so it's good to see that the Ukrainians were able to get these smirches before they can actually fire, and they're now out there in this picture, still smoldering and burning at this very moment that we're covering this in the video. Well, then we're now going to be moving further up to the area of Oleksandrivka, where you can see the Russian positions were also slammed here by Ukrainian artillery. Also, we got to mute that real quick. But we can see a Russian trench right here. This time, the Russians actually dug it by the book. They actually made it to where it kind of zigzags a little, which is interesting. But it looks like it didn't really save them, because there's something snap, crackling, and popping right there behind their trench. Usually not a good sign. And that was a little bit of a fiery explosion right there at the end, so we know that that vehicle has certainly been destroyed. Also, I saw someone ask something, and I would like to go back and address this real quick. A viewer of ours said, the bridges have been hit, sure, but how do we know they've been knocked out of commission? And I would have to tell you that if you see holes like this in a bridge that have damaged the tarmac this badly across the entire span, I would say a truck probably couldn't drive over that. I'm not a structural expert or anything, but considering that this bridge looks less strong than Stephen Hawking's, I don't think that this is a truck can cross over this at any point. So that's my confirmation so far, and also our confirmation with the Antonovisky Bridge and the Antonovisky Railroad Bridge is that the Antonovisky Railroad Bridge actually had Russian observers and engineers on it, and we saw a video of them proving that the bridge had pretty much been split down the middle and the two sides began to recede towards the shores, and so we know that that one's knocked out for certain, as that kind of damage is pretty much irreparable. And then finally at the Antonovisky Bridge, if that bridge was usable, then why would the Russians be using a ferry and building a barge bridge alongside it to try and get supplies to Kherson? It wouldn't make any sense for them to do that. If it was still usable, they would just drive the trucks over the bridge. And so I want to make sure to go back real quick, because it's a fairly good question. And I just want to make sure that I kind of lay out the groundwork to show why these bridges are certainly unusable. With that, we're now going to be moving out of that little quick aside and up towards Davidiv Brid, where we saw that the Ukrainian 28th Brigade has been scooting around in some buggies again, and the Ukrainians are, of course, huge fans of the buggy, and so here it is. We can also hear some music. When you see them firing an AGS off the top of the thing. And they like using this thing. It's like a small infantry mortar, pretty much, because those 40 mils have about the same explosive firepower as a 40mm mortar. And so using this buggy, you can drive around and do a really quick shoot and scoot with this AGS and treat it pretty much like a mortar. We can now see them firing the AGS into the air again. This seems almost like an AGS montage. We can now see a drone view of this little buggy. And I've got to say, Matthew, I don't know about you, but this thing looks like a buggy that you would drive around at like a little go-kart rally, which is kind of cool to think that they're using that thing in war.
Looks nice and homemade, but quality at that.
Yeah, it looks pretty quality, actually. And they even made a little seat for the gunner right there. If you see it right there, it's a tiny little, like a...
Yeah,
tiny seat. I mean, it's incredibly small. He's now hopping back on top again. And now they're off. That's really cool, actually. And so that's the end of the video. And I gotta say, it's really cool, you know, because you never would think that a buggy like that would be used in a war. But honestly, it is a pretty, I guess you could say, logical evolution to the technical, which started to appear in, I believe, Chad in the 80s, and also Somalia in the 80s around the same time. And now we're just seeing the evolution of the technical from a pickup truck to more so of like a buggy or a go-kart, pretty much. So pretty cool at that to see. And unfortunately, with all of this interesting news, we have not heard the official declaration of a Ukrainian counterattack in the area, but I feel like it's nearly inevitable at this point, considering that the Russian supply lines are literally hanging on by a tether, which is just a ferry that's being transported from one side of the river to the other. So with that, we're now going to be moving out of the Kherson area and into the international news already. We've gotten an incredibly concerning bit of news from Minsk today. I don't honestly think it was too big of a news, and it wasn't a lot for the Belarusians to do, but Lukashenko today declared that the Belarusians now possess aircraft that are nuclear capable. We can actually click on this link here and go to the direct news article that says it. So let me go right here and then click that. This comes from, I believe, the Ministry of Defense's website in Ukraine. But we can see right here that Alexander Lukashenko stated that the conversion of military aircraft of the Air Force of Belarus has already been completed. They now can carry nuclear weapons. And then Lukashenko says that this is in response to the West's actions and not Russia's, which is kind of weird considering they're the ones that started this war. We can see some pictures here of two Belarusian Su-24s in flight, probably in a well, actually, these are Su-24s of the Russian Air Force, according to the caption. I was about to say the red star is kind of odd. I thought the Belarusians used a different symbol. But these are the aircraft that would most likely be nuclear capable. The Belarusian Air Force is incredibly small. Putin noted that Su-25 jet aircraft could be converted for such purposes as well. And then, according to Lukashenko, like I said, the Su-24s that the Belarusians have became the carriers of the nuclear weapons, at least supposedly. But this is still incredibly concerning news, as now that Belarus has nuclear-capable aircraft, it raises the question of, are the Russians secretly giving the Ukrainians nuclear arms to use on their own? Because what would be the point of Belarus converting some of their Su-24s and ensuring that they are nuclear capable if they didn't have any? So it's suggesting that there are apparently some nuclear weapons in Belarus, which is a very concerning thing, and I think that the world should keep a close eye on this and maybe have a finger on the trigger button in a way, just in case they do anything insane. So with that, that's the end of this little bit of news. Incredibly concerning, but not too much to add to it. It's pretty self-explanatory. We'll now be moving into Russia, where we have a little bit of something to watch from Russian state TV. Now, I know that we all enjoy Russian state TV. It's just what we live for. But today we've seen something really stupid. As the whiny guy who talks like this, he's decided to put on like a Hitler impersonation and also call a German official pretty much Hitler and say that Hitler is his role model. So here's the video of that. It is absolutely insane, and this goes on, I believe, for a whole, like, 5 minutes. No, 2 minutes, actually. So, I'm just gonna play this. I think y'all can see the captions at the bottom. It is raw insanity, so here we go.
У меня личное отношение с Herr Scholz. Ja, das ist keine миленький, совсем маленький Führer.
Now, you know, I do voice impersonations, but I don't do anything hopefully as cringe as this. This is just next level cringe.
Ну, совсем грохнулся головой человек. Ну, просто, вот, ну, что у него случилось? Ну нельзя же, ну настолько быть. Ну реально. Я вам просто сначала покажу, чтобы было понятно. Значит, Herr Scholz приезжает к своей бандеровской сволочь и начинает им демонстрировать Deutschland Panzer. Посмотрите.
Also, real quick, before we show that, before we let this video continue, I find it funny that he's saying that the German guy is a Nazi, but this guy looks like he's wearing the closest thing to a Gestapo tunic that you could ever wear with the double-breasted buttons and all. I mean, like, this is pretty funny.
Посмотрите. И он залезает на стремянка, на Deutsche, ja, Panzer, ja, sehr gut. Панцирь-кран, и он, значит, фотографируется. И я думаю, а что он полез-то? А он кумиром своим полез. Я сразу вспомнил эту фотографию. Вот же как все было. Вот, покажите. О, рядом поставьте вторую фотографию, чтобы было ясно. Вот куда лет Шольц, чтобы подобие...
Okay, so I don't get this. How in the world is someone getting on a tank making you Hitler? You know, because while the pictures do look a little similar, hasn't every single world leader at one point or another climbed around on the tanks of their armed forces and had pictures taken on top of them? Because I'm very sure that a lot of US presidents and a lot of Soviet premiers back in older times had pictures like this, and I don't really know how you can sit there and go, without any other proof, just go, look, there's a picture of him doing something similar to Hitler, and therefore he's Hitler. That would be like seeing a picture of Hitler drinking water and seeing like a president or a prime minister in the present day drinking water and saying, look, he's Hitler. It just doesn't make any sense.
Миру с усиками, чтобы не было ни у кого никаких иллюзий. Вот он куда полез. Вот нацистская недобитая сволочь.
Also, I love how they ripped this picture straight off of Superstock and didn't even get rid of the watermark. That shows you how bad the Russian economy is that they can't even pay for a picture license.
Ты сволочь, а? Значит, у себя в Германии он бандеровцев и еще по немецким танкам ползает. Совсем за своим кумиром пошел. Вот просто хочет быть как его кумир. Фуражечку надень и усики отпусти еще. А у меня вопрос к нам. Если мы знаем, что там на немецких землях нацисты готовят бандеровскую сволочь на немецкой технике, зачем нам ждать, когда они появятся на фронте? Почему не считать это легитимными целями прямо там? Почему не нанести удар по террористическим формированиям украинского райха, который проходит подготовлен на территории даже Deutschland? Они, интересно, уже считают это рейхскомиссариатом Ост? Нет?
It's crazy to hear these kinds of delusions from the Russians. I mean, this guy literally believes it's 1943 right now, and he's not thinking that it's 2022. The entire political world and field has changed, and it's just delusional. There's not really a lot for me to add because it's just raw insane. But
so Enforcer, real quick, what his point is, he wants to go and attack Germany because why?
Because they're training Ukrainian soldiers and they're giving them tanks, apparently. I think that was his gist.
Wow, that was a stretch.
I know, it's a huge stretch. It doesn't make any sense. And honestly, I just like to show that every once in a while because I want to show y'all the delusionalness of a Russian on TV. Because a lot of people, because usually news over here doesn't really cover that kind of stuff, at least mainstream news. I want y'all to see what the other side is actually saying on their own news, because it's just raw insanity at this point, and there's really no other way to describe it. And then, you have people like Sergei Shoigu coming out and saying, the reason why the Russians are not advancing in Ukraine is because we are trying to, make sure to negate civilian casualties while literally losing hundreds of men a day. But anyways, it's just raw stupidity. Not really a lot to add. I just hope it's clear and obvious to y'all. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that bit of international news and on to our last bit before we return back to Ukraine. And this is from the United States of America. Of course, the United States has been supplying Ukraine with loads of supplies throughout the entirety of this war and will most likely never stop anytime soon. We did see today that a new AA system will be provided to the Ukrainians that can be mounted onto the back of a pickup truck. We can actually see here that they photoshopped the Toyota logo out on this truck, but it's a 70mm laser-guided APKWS system, and they can be installed on pickup trucks. Apparently, the Germans have a similar system. But that thing is pretty neat. And let's actually pull up this little system and take a good look at it and try and get an idea of what this thing is really capable of.
And are they sending the trucks, the system, and everything all in one package, or just the system itself?
I think they're just sending the system, and then they're going to let the Ukrainians mount them however, so that way, if the Ukrainians need them mounted on buggies, like we saw in the second picture, they could do that, or they could mount it onto a truck, whichever, I guess they require at the time. But let's take a look at this thing. Design conversion of a Hydra 70 unguided rocket with a laser guidance kit to turn them into precision-guided munitions. So apparently it's really just a modification of a 70mm Hydra that now can be guided. So let's see here. Has a lower yield, more suitable for avoiding collateral damage, and takes 1/4 of the time for ordnance personnel to load and unload, which is a huge winning factor there. So let's see. Maximum speed is 739 meters a second. So in almost a second, it can cover 3/4 of a kilometer, which is pretty fast. Let's see. Effective firing range. It can fire to about 3.11 miles away. So it's actually a pretty ranged weapon right here, and it looks pretty neat. Now, we haven't seen a lot of this before, and this is the first time I've ever heard this weapon mentioned, but we can see that apparently, oh, that just looks like a normal Hydra pod, but it may be the guided versions of the Hydra, but still, it's an impressive weapon system, and I can't wait to see that the Ukrainians will get some of these and be able to use them themselves. The United States have gone above and beyond with providing all kinds of weapons and support that's highly technological compared to what the Ukrainians are actually facing, and I hope that this is as effective in combating the Russians as everything else that the United States has sent over. And so with that...
And Enforcer, I have to say, I saw Kaltenberg say in the live chat, Toyota really should have a technical option from the factory. And yes, they should. They should allow people to option that out on their little Tacomas. That would be a pretty cool thing. I'm sure that would be popular in the United States, at least.
Let's see what kind of Toyota trucks are for sale. We're not going to make this a quick aside because I've actually seen that a lot of people do enjoy when we just keep concise to the news. So we're going to switch to the trucks real quick. Let's see. We're going to actually back out of that. And we're now going to move on to the next segment of news because apparently instead of just showing us the trucks, it's going to try and find us a dealer, and we don't want none of that. So anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving on into our location unknown news, which we have a massive amount of today. In fact, it's going to be its own section. But before we get there, we're going to take a quick pause to answer 3 questions from the chat. And after we answer those 3 questions from the chat, we're then going to move on into the next segment of news. And so with that, what do we got? But before we get to the questions, I know we got a poll up. So what's that poll say, Matthew?
And yes, we do have a poll, and the question is, what do you think of the homemade Ukrainian dune buggy technical vehicle? And as you can tell, I wasn't really sure what to call it, so I just kind of came up with my own little name there. It looks like 62% of you said, wow, ingenuity, much good. 33% said, whatever, it works. And 5% said, nah, get some real equipment. Now for me, obviously, I think it's ingenuity because it's a homemade sort of deal. They put a gun on the top of it, and guess what? It works. So I'm in between the wow option and also whatever it works option because at the end of the day, they just need working functional equipment, and that fits the bill. So Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I would honestly have to agree. If it fits the bill and does the job, then it works. And you especially have to work with what you have. And knowing that the Ukrainians had an incredibly small military budget going into this war of around $5 to $6 billion a year, it makes a lot of sense for them to try and cut corners wherever they can. And Doom buggies are incredibly cheap, easy to mass produce, and can be used pretty much anywhere over any kind of terrain. And so it makes a lot of sense for them to make these homemade Ukrainian Doom buggies pretty much. And so in my opinion, I would have to agree with the overwhelming majority and say that they are certainly pretty good vehicles and they do have a place in this war, particularly for the Ukrainians. And so with that, I hope that does address the poll, and we're now going to move on into the questions.
All right, and let's get to our 3 super chat questions. And up first, we have a $50 donation from Muth Bab. And I believe that's their first time supporting as well. So if you're new, welcome to the Leaf Spring Army. And Enforcer, before I make an idiot out of myself, have you seen them before?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so I believe they are new, so welcome. And they say, great work, keep it up. You have a great future, whatever you intend to do in life.
Oh man, that's real kind words right there. And I got to thank you for the support, and also thank you just so much for having such high praise. I try my best, and of course, I don't know if this is a detriment or a benefit, but I am only 20 years old, so there's a lot of my life ahead of me. I'm just trying to round out my senior year of college right now, so that's something I'm trying to deal with in the background. And I thank you so much for the support and those and the incredibly kind words. That whole entire thing was incredibly nice of you, and so I got to thank you so much. And hopefully, I will have a great future ahead of me. I hope you'll all vote for me in the presidential election of 2040, so that way we can make this country incredibly proud. And so with that, thank you so much once again, Muthbab. It does mean a lot to me to have people backing me up and supporting me. And also, thank you so much for enjoying this channel. And I'm guessing you've probably been around for a while. This is usually the story of a lot of people. They've been around for a while, but they've never really gotten involved in the live chat or anything. So if that's the case, then thank you so much for getting involved. And I'm glad that you've been enjoying the channel for an incredibly long time. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, real quick, folks, if you want and you enjoy the streams, please feel free to smash that like button. It helps us tremendously. And moving on to the next super chat, we have a $30 donation from White Lightning 777, who says, "How do you share your home with a Ukrainian refugee without getting scammed?"
I'm not particularly sure, unfortunately. I haven't really looked into the Ukrainian family adoption programs here in the United States. I'm not really sure how that works. But I always say make sure that if you do anything, it's through a verified and I guess you could say a very safe organization or source. That's why we always run our fundraisers through YouTube Give. I know that there's a lot of fundraisers out there that are legitimate and they do run through PayPal's, but I feel like there's a lot of questionability with that kind of stuff because think about it. You know, just think about this for a minute, because supporting Ukraine's great, but there's people out there who know that they can skim and scam off of this kind of stuff, and so they're going to go around and create a PayPal and say, hey, my buddy Vadim is over there and he needs 50 IFACs, can we get him some support? They get $10,000 on a PayPal, no one knows how much they raised, no one ever sees it get there, this guy just disappears off the face of the earth. And so that's one thing that I always just say is a rule of thumb. Make sure that what you're doing is incredibly safe. That's why we don't run fundraisers for PayPals, and we run fundraisers through the GuideStar program on YouTube, so that way we can make sure that they're verified, legitimate fundraisers. And I also just, I also like to be as transparent as possible and update y'all on the total that's been raised, and y'all can see it on the live chat stream. And I know that doesn't really answer the question about how to pretty much adopt a Ukrainian family, but I feel like that's generally a rule of thumb to follow with anything you want to do, because there's a lot of people out there who try and take advantage of a situation. Just make sure that if you do that, it's through a legitimate organization that can be verified. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question with just a word of general advice from me, White Lightning 777, and I hope that does help you out if you are looking at helping out a Ukrainian family. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. It helps out this channel a lot, and I hope that did give you a pretty good idea of what to do. And so with that, we are on to the final question of this segment, and then we'll be moving on into the next bit of news.
And it looks like the last one of this segment is actually a donation left without a comment, and this one is from Hillneck304, who puts in a $25 donation, and as I mentioned, does not leave a comment. But Hillneck, thank you very much for your support, and I also think you're a new supporter as well. So if you are, like we said to Muthbab, welcome to the LSA.
And also, thank you so much for the support, and I think you are new. I don't think I've ever heard your name before, and so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. This is actually not once again, this is the first time. And so thank you so much for the support. And I'm glad that you've enjoyed this channel so much that you're willing to help us to keep it going. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment. And also, one other thing real quick is I saw someone say, bro, YouTube is corrupt too. The difference though, in between YouTube and a random Joe out there on the internet is that if YouTube does something like that, they can get sued and they can have they can lose their shirts in a lawsuit over that kind of stuff if it can be proven. Joe Blow off the street running a PayPal, there's no way for anyone to really find him. He runs a PayPal, he disappears off the face of the earth without a trace. So I have a lot more faith in YouTube considering that that's in writing, and if anything's in writing, you can sue over it if they're doing something that's opposite of that. That's how, you know, pretty much written agreements work, and that's kind of a contract. So with that, I hope that does answer that a little bit more, and that's why I have huge trust in the YouTube system, is because if they were doing anything sketchy like that, you could sue them, and that usually stops people from doing sketchy stuff. So with that, I hope that answers that comment real quick, because I'm up and down. I will literally die on the hill that the YouTube Give platform is the best way to fundraise for Ukraine. And so with that, we are on to the next bit of news, where we can see some location unknowns, and we've had a huge amount of them today. I tried to figure out where these were, but eventually, after trying my best, I just had to put them all into the location unknowns. And so, starting off, we can see a Ukrainian SPG at work in this first video.
What was that?
There's a demon being born in the song right there. We'll play that one more time. Don't know what that is.
Interesting.
But when you see the SPG firing, it looks like... Unfortunately, I can't tell you what it looks like based off of the muzzle brake or anything like that, but it is a SPG operated by Ukraine, and hopefully it hit its target downrange. And so with that, we're now on to the next bit of location unknown news, where we can then see the Azov Battalion in combat. Of course, music in this as well, but so that way y'all can hear the sound of the firefight. Until the music gets too loud, I'm going to play it and hopefully not get copyrighted for it. Sounds like a pretty intense firefight. The music is just jamming away. We now see him get up and grab his AK. It looks like an AK-12, actually. And so with that, that's the end of the video, and it's good to see that the Azov Battalion is still out there, at least certain portions of it, and that they are still in operation. And so with that, we are going to move on to the next bit of location unknown news, where we can see that a Russian Tor-2 anti-air system hit a Ukrainian drone. Probably this anti-air battery's biggest one of the war, a single $800 or so drone. So here's the video. We see that they've now fired the missile. And it's on the way, and it looks like they're still tracking that drone. And there they go. They hit it. And they spent probably around $12,000 to take out the $100 or $800 drone. It's great to know that the Russians, no matter what they do, they're always losing money in the end, and this war, due to that reason, will be unsustainable for them. They just cannot keep up those kinds of losses, and also those kinds of expenses to negate their losses. And so with that, we're now on to the next bit of location unknown news, where we can then also see a Ukrainian drone hitting the Russians, which is a lot better than seeing them get shot down. So here's this video. We can see the Russians here walking along this tree line. We can also hear that they have music in this as well. And the bomblet's well on its way, and... Ooh! Yikes. Looks like it got 4 of them. Jeez. That was a well-placed one. And now they're all just sitting there. And of course, the Russians further up in the line just left all these guys behind. So with that, that's the end of this video. And it's while of course it's never great to see people getting blasted on film, it's a I guess you could say a necessary evil in war that one side does lose. And so it's good to see that the Ukrainians are taking out these Russians, so that way they can eventually push them back out of the country. With that, we're now moving on into the next bit of location unknown news, where we see some Russians in a trench. This sounds almost like the beginning of a joke, and if we know anything about the Russians, it is a joke for them to be in a trench. We hear that they're playing music in this video as well, and there's a Russian right there. Ooh. The bomblet fell literally right there into that opening in the trench. A hole in one shot, taking him out. Well, that's the end of that video. And I gotta say, I don't think that Russian made it out of that one. We're now going to be moving on to the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we can see that a Russian got out of it unscathed, but he almost got bombed in his sleep. This Russian right here is sleeping in his pit of filth and garbage. As you can see, the trash is everywhere. And the drone has decided to clean up the garbage by dropping a bomblet straight onto it. It blows up right near him, but it doesn't get him. So then he wakes up from his sleep, and he gets up, and he runs off like Mr. Bean.
And he left his gun behind.
Yeah, he just left the gun behind and everything. He is gone, and he's never coming back. Now, some of y'all may be like, oh, dang it, they didn't get him. But on the other hand, I'm like, yes, they didn't get him, because he's going to run back to all of his guys. That's where he's running right now. And he's going to be like, guys, I almost got killed by a bomblet in my sleep. Like, they almost killed me right then. And now his whole entire unit, although they'll probably try and blow it off, they will probably not be able to sleep because they'll be scared if they fall asleep, a drone's going to fly right over their head and try and drop a bomblet on them. But I mean, like, this guy right here, I gotta say, this would be like the, if the video buffers, this where he took off and started walking away. For some reason, it reminds me a lot of the Mr. Bean intro right there. Anyways, with that, that's the end of that video. Great to see that they're still running around the Russians a little. And with that, we're now on to the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we can see that the Ukrainians have had to deal with an exorbitant amount of unexploded ordnance. Credit to Radio Free Europe for providing this footage, because without them, there would not be a lot of on-the-ground footage. They're an incredible reporting crew and team, and I absolutely respect everything they do. And so with that, here's this video.
My left ear loves that one.
Yeah.
Вікна відкривай. Борт відкривай. Мінометна міна 120 мм. Після вчорашнього обстрілу була знайдена така небезпечна знахідка. Не спрацював вибухник, саме головне.
You see them now going in, trying to find the explosives.
Небезпечну знахідку. Ми зараз ще обстежуємо територію на наявність інших вибухонебезпечних предметів.
А як вони фіксуються там? Це ви щось складати йде?
Пісок. Зараз відвантажуємо для перевозки цю мінометну міну до місця підриву і там вже працюємо по знищенню. Переважно яма якась, щоб можна було мінімізувати, скажімо так, розльот осколків. Василь Іванович, міну несіть. Возьму лампочку.
And these guys really have some balls of steel doing this kind of job with live explosives. And really no protective gear whatsoever. They're just wearing a bulletproof vest and a helmet.
Боеприпасы отошли от него метров на 300, и сейчас благодаря вот этой красной кнопке
Ну, 6 или 7 штук было.
Вот это осколочный
Понятно,
элемент.
всё.
Здесь разорвало, здесь ничего уже у вас нет.
Но оно летело оттуда, он оттуда. Ну, бахало оно так, что я думал, и крыша полетит, улетит.
Тікай. Це осколковий бойовий елемент з урагана. Дивіться, ураган має таку бойову частину, касетну бойову частину. Ну, один з видів ураганів, скажімо так, має. Там таких касетних бойових елементів 30 штук. Він розкривається, розкидує їх і покриває значну площу для ураження. І з цих 30 один не спрацював.
It blows me away how these guys, you know, because in the U.S. you would see someone in the whole sapper gear, if I can pull up a uniform, sapper gear. Like, what's it called, Matthew? An OD something uniform? ODM gear, I think?
I believe so.
Nope, that's not it. That looks like something
Oh.
from some cartoon.
No.
Oh man, I'm trying to think about it. Bomb disposal suit. Maybe this will pull it up. Yeah, the bomb suit. Here in the United States, you would usually see a guy dressed up in some kind of a bomb disposal suit doing this job, although I'm sure that there are exceptions here in the US. It's not always going to be a bomb disposal suit, man. And then in Ukraine, the same explosives are pretty much just treated like, oh, look, some dog crap on the ground, and they just walk up in a bulletproof vest and pick the thing up. Also, thank you for everyone for saying EOD. We found that out after a little bit. But now he comes over with the cluster munition.
Головне там не торкатися датчик цілів, там, ну, де вибухник. Не торкатися може спрацювати. Дуже небезпечний предмет. У нас в Харкові 3 хлопців загинули на ньому.
Проверил, взведена она или нет. Оказалось, взведена.
Взведена, да?
Да.
Ну, то есть, чтобы она сдетонировала, что нужно?
Ударить по ней хорошенько.
We now see them walking out into a field and digging a little hole to blow the thing up in. Wow, that thing actually had some power behind it to be that small.
Ну, як задоволення, то що я зробив якусь, розумієте, в день таку роботу, що, скажу так, зараз безпечніше, так скажемо, місцевому населенню. Довольний тим, що все, ні дітлахи, ні якісь там цивільні люди цього вже не побачать ніколи.
And that's the end of that video, and that's crazy to see that these guys are that brave to walk up with very little protective gear and continue to do their job almost non-stop throughout each and every day, trying to find as many explosives as they can and clear them out so that way people will be safer at the end of the day and that they won't become the collateral damage of a munition that was long left over by the Russians. And so with that, that's the end of that little video. Huge credit to Radio Free Europe once again for making that film. It was incredibly informative, and I have to say, they do an incredibly good job. With that, we're now moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can see that more M113s are on the move. Once again, America's contribution to the war effort in a smaller way than the M777 or the HIMARS. You see them moving around. We can also see what appears to be a Sultan, which is a British armored personnel carrier. Now see another M113 coming up and following the rest of them. And I gotta say, while the M113 is not the heaviest hitting, fastest moving armored personnel carrier out there, there is something kind of nostalgic about this little box on wheels as it just trucks its way across the plains. That makes it pretty neat in general. So with that, that's the end of this little video, and I just gotta say, it's really cool to see that the United States has tried to provide as much as it possibly can, and that some of them are these M113s. Pretty cool. And so with that, we're now on into our next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can then see a picture of powder charges piled up along a wall for 155mm guns. 155mm is the standard caliber for NATO artillery pieces, and just look at how many powder charges there are in this one place. It looks like thousands of them are on this wall, and all of them will eventually be used to fire off an artillery piece, whether it be a Caesar, a Panzerhaubitze 2000, an M777. All of them have the same caliber. All of them are the same caliber, and so they all use the same kind of powder charge and the same size. And so it's really crazy to see that the Ukrainians have gotten this much, and huge credit goes to all of the countries involved, because this could have come from America, Germany, Britain, France. It could have come from anywhere, and so huge credit to every single Western country that's provided weapons, arms, and ammunition to the Ukrainians, because each one of these could be the possibility of another shell landing down onto a Russian unit and taking it out. And so with that, that's the end of this little bit of Location Unknown news, and we're now on to the next one, where we can see something that is a little interesting. I don't know if y'all have ever looked into memes a lot, but there's this dog called Cheems, and Cheems is a Doge, and it would take a lot of time to explain exactly the whole entire Doge thing, but it's been around forever on the internet. Y'all may remember it. I don't know if y'all do or don't, but let me pull it up just in case. The Doge, right here. This was like one of the first memes on the internet. I remember it as a small child, and it's been around forever. But there was an adaptation of the Doge dog, and it evolved into Cheems. And I know y'all are like, what in the world does this have to do with Ukraine? But
I actually didn't know that.
well, yeah, it's kind of an evolution of the Doge dog in terms of the meme. And the Doge actually evolved a lot itself, but this is all too much, for Ukraine war news. I've got to make sure we keep on topic, but this all does mean something because on the internet, Cheems is a huge internet meme. It's a huge joke, and a lot of people make fun of this dog, and we can actually see the original picture right here. It's a funny one. Anyways, with that in mind, now that I've explained the Doge Cheems thing and all that, there's a peon artillery piece being operated by the Ukrainians that got all kitted up because of SignMyRocket.com called the Super Bunker 9000. And this thing is literally covered in Cheems dogs. They're everywhere. Like one right there. Let me see if I can get this picture a little bit larger. One right there, one right there. This one's wearing like a tracksuit, like a camouflage tracksuit. This one's like holding a baseball bat. This is another Cheems. There's another one up here, and then we can see on the barrel it says Super Bunker 9000, and then it has a baseball bat, and it says NATO Article 69. Nice. And this is just hilarious. Imagine you're a Russian and you get blown away by some artillery piece called a Super Bunker 9000. This is just. It's hilarious at this point. It's kind of funny to see that some Ukrainian artillery units and others around the front are almost like sponsored vehicles at this point. Like it's like the next thing you know, there's going to be 3M and Nestle. Well, not Nestle for sure, but like 3M and Ford and all other kinds of companies with little sponsor stickers on the sides of these SPGs. But I got to say, this is just crazy. It's hilarious. And things like this are what make wars this war in particular, incredibly interesting, is that it's so different from every other one. And I just gotta say, this is probably my favorite thing that I've seen in the war that SignMyRocket.com has done. So with that, we also have a second picture that just shows the baseball bat a little bit better. But that one was honestly crazy, and I had to share that with y'all just out of the absurdity of it. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on to our final bit of Location Unknown news. And y'all know what it is. It's the Russian losses. We haven't checked on this in a couple of days, and we can see that the numbers have continued to rise at an unprecedented rate, especially for the troop casualties. Another 400 Russian soldiers were killed as of the past 24 hours, bringing the number up to 46,250, and the Ukrainians are cruising their way quickly on up towards 50,000 soldiers killed. It's insane, honestly, and I don't have to tell y'all why. Y'all have been around long enough to know. They've also knocked out another 7 tanks, another 6 armored personnel carriers, 3 artillery pieces, no new MLRSs or anti-aircraft tanks, no new planes, helicopters, or boats, but they did shoot down another 6 drones, destroyed another 2 supply vehicles, and unfortunately, they did not shoot down any more cruise missiles, which is a kind of sad thing to hear. But, of course, it comes and goes with each day. But still, the casualties are stacking up on the Russians, and it's honestly unbelievable to think that the war has been going on, and they've gotten this many casualties from this kind of war. And let's just go back, the first Chechen war, and compare these stats to the first Chechen war and see how many losses the Russians took there. So over the course of 1 year, 8 months, 2 weeks, and 6 days of the First Chechen War, the Russians lost 5,732 soldiers, exactly, with about an additional 17 to 52,000 wounded. And in this current war, which has only gone on for about half, well, even less than half of the time of the First Chechen War, they have taken nearly 46,000 casualties. In the end, the First Chechen War would be a crushing defeat for the Russians, and they would never really return back to Chechnya again until the Second Chechen War about 4 years later when Putin took charge of the country. And then after a slow grinding war that literally took years, they would win. So I'll actually show y'all this to give y'all an idea of how long it lasted. The major combat phase lasted 8 months and 24 days. The insurgency phase lasted for 8 years, 10 months, and 15 days. But one thing that the Wikipedia won't tell you off the bat So unlike the first Chechen war, where the Russian army raced to the capital city of Grozny in Chechnya, which is right here, and then ended up getting slaughtered, the Russian army in the second Chechen war actually started at the northernmost area of the province and slowly worked their way down throughout the entire province. So it was really something like 9 years total that it took them to subjugate Chechnya once more. But still, the Wikipedia won't really make that kind of distinction, sadly. But still, it shows y'all how many losses, I guess you could say, the Russians have taken in prior wars during the era of the Russian Federation, and how bad this is really going for them as of the present day. Also notice that in the Second Chechen War, they lost 3,700 men. So still not as much as the current war, and it gives you an idea of how badly it really is going for them. But with that, that's the end of that bit of Location Unknown news, and we're now going to be moving into, I believe, if I make sure to divvy all of this up correctly, yes, we'll now be covering the rest of the news for the night. The Kharkiv area, the Donbass, and also the Southern Front and Crimea. But before we get to all of that, we're going to take another quick pause to address 3 more questions from the chat. And after we address those 3 questions, we'll then be moving into our final segment. And so with that, what do we got?
All right. So, Enforcer, real quick, before we move on to the poll, so you remember on that tank it said NAFO. Did you know what that meant?
No.
So I was informed by some folks in the live chat that NAFO is the North Atlantic Fella Organization. I'm not really sure what it is, but it appears to be a meme of some sort. And apparently everybody knows about it but us.
North Atlantic Fella Organization. NAFO. Know your meme. Let's see. Is a collective Twitter poster set on fundraising for the Georgian Legion in Ukraine amidst the Russian invasion of the country, as well as combating Russian propaganda on the site largely through memes and involving photoshops of the Shiba Inu and meme character Cheems. While it's unclear when exactly NAFO began, the first appearance was around the May 24th of 2022. Then we can see right here NAFO in the Cheems at the bottom. Yeah, this is pretty funny, actually. I didn't know that there was a history behind this. Wow. Wait a minute, was that on a... yesterday? What? Hang on. Oh, wait a minute. I thought that was specifically about NAFO. I was probably like, what? They got a Russian to comment on it? But anyways, that is pretty cool to know. I didn't actually know it was like a legitimate meme. And so with that, we are now moving on into the polls before we move on into the questions. So with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so moving into the poll, the question this time was, would you serve as an EOD specialist in Ukraine? It looks like 39% of you said no. Proper safety is paramount. 29% said maybe, and 32% said yes, I would take the risk. So on this one, I would have to fall within the maybe camp. Because it is important to get the ordinances out of the way, but at the same time, that is pretty risky to be messing around without a proper suit on. And actually, a good question that I would have is, does the suit actually protect you, or is it just sort of like make you feel good? Maybe somebody that knows a little about EOD could let us know, but maybe the enforcer knows.
I think it would protect you, but at the same time, I don't really know about concussive, like a concussive blast wave, because sometimes you don't even have to be shredded by the explosion itself to be killed. Sometimes just the pressure of the explosion in the air can kill you, because that's something I've heard about. I believe it's called overpressure, but I'm not exactly sure. And once again, I'm not a big bomb expert, so discredit everything I said there. I'm just working off of my assumptions, off of knowledge that I have, and so I'm trying to piece it together to where it may make logical sense, but that may be entirely wrong. So with that, I'm not entirely sure either, but I would like to get an answer from anyone who does that as a job in our live chat. Does that actually protect you, or is it more for a feeling of comfort, I guess you could say?
And it looks like I'm seeing some people say no, it doesn't. Some people say it protects you from the shrapnel, but not the concussion. So sort of like what the enforcer was saying. You'd be jelly, said Noob145. Just keeps your guts in one bag, says Nettles the cat, or Nettles cat, excuse me. So it appears it doesn't. And that was kind of my assumption, because I'm not really sure even how thick that suit looks, if it can actually withstand a real explosion. It doesn't seem like it would, at least a big one.
Yeah, and I don't think it would either. And also another quick story to kind of tell y'all why honestly, I'm not really a big EOD person. Like, if a bomb's somewhere, I'm not really the kind of person to walk up to it at all, even if I was doing that as a job. So I'd actually have to say maybe as well, because it doesn't really matter the safety equipment. You'd probably be turned to mush anyways. But as an interesting aside real quick on people who have worn no safety gear and have pretty much taken the risk. If y'all have ever gone to London or live in the United Kingdom and been to London, you've probably seen St. Paul's Cathedral, which dominates, well, it doesn't really dominate anymore, but it used to dominate the central skyline of London for quite some while and was also an icon during the Blitz. What some people may not know from around the world that are not from the United Kingdom is that during the Second World War, during the Blitz, a bomb slammed straight through this dome that is on this cathedral and slammed down right into the middle of the gallery. And so it didn't blow up, surprisingly enough, because if it had blown up, it would have destroyed the entire center of this beautiful cathedral. It's an absolutely beautiful one. If you ever go to London, highly suggest you go see it. Anyways, the British had some bomb disposal crews at the time, and so what they did is, if you've ever seen, let's see, the Home Guard, World War II. If you've ever seen any of the Home Guard, I'm not talking about Dad's Army, but this kind of loadout, some guys ran into that building pretty much dressed like that. I believe they may have been a part of the Civil Defense or whatever other organization that was in Britain at the time. They literally just grabbed the bomb, yanked it out of the ground, loaded it onto the back of a flatbed truck, and drove it out, I believe, into Essex, because, you know, explosions are normal for Essex. That's nothing new. And then they blew it up out there. And so it's not unheard of for people to have to defuse bombs in dangerous situations. Defusing a bomb is just a dangerous thing all around. And sometimes you just do have to take that risk, and especially the brave men who took out that bomb out of St. Paul's Cathedral during the Blitz, because if they hadn't, you know, of course the bomb could have gone off at a later date, and it could have destroyed the entirety of this historic cathedral. And honestly, it's really sick to think that sometimes the Germans would directly target such historic structures. Another structure, well, we can make an entire video on this probably in the future, but another thing that some of y'all may not know is that the House of Commons was actually destroyed in the Blitz as well. A bomb fell into the middle of it and completely wiped out the thing. And so if you look at a picture of the House of Commons today, which I'll try and find y'all right here, this is actually rebuilt. This is not original. So with that, we're now going to be moving on out of that quick aside on Britain and also bomb defusal in that regard, and I hope that kind of covered my sentiments, thoughts, and a little bit of history behind bomb defusal in a way. And so with that, we're on to the questions. And so what do we got?
And also, I saw some people in the live chat saying about the EOD discussion we were having, that they should be sent some EOD disposal bombs, robots. And that's actually a really good idea. We should send some of those over if they don't have them already, because that would be a humongous help. But anyways, by the way, I just want to mention, I saw Super Bunker 9000 put in a super chat, and we will get to that shortly, but that's pretty cool that you changed your username to be Super Bunker 9000. But anyways, moving on to our first one, we have a $50 donation from Todd Fabaker, I believe it said, hopefully. Todd says, "Thanks for all your hard work. I'm just wishing to provide extra support."
And thank you so much for the kind words, thanking us for our hard work. We try our best, and I'm glad you do enjoy it. And also, thank you for providing support. It is, and of course, I never like to put pressure on the viewers, but it's incredibly important that we do get support from our viewers. It's the only way that we actually support this channel, and so support like that does help us out a long way and helps us to keep the stream running, because right now it's a full-time job for me. It will probably always be a full-time job for me, and so thank you so much once again for supporting us and keeping the stream going. I think that, has he ever super chatted before? Because I don't think he has.
I think he's also new.
And so if you are new, Todd, I'm sorry if you're not, but I think that's the first time I've ever seen your name here before. And so if that's your first time, I've got to thank you so much for the support, because you are helping to keep this channel afloat. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for that wonderful support and also the kind words as well. It's always wonderful to hear the kind words, and I highly encourage y'all, if y'all would like to say kind words to us, don't ever feel like it would be like cringe or anything like that. We really do appreciate it, and it lets us know that people actually enjoy and like what we do, which means a lot to us. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again, Todd.
And up next, we have a $28 donation from Junebug, without the 72 on the end, who says, "For Ashley, LOL, I accepted your challenge. Have a blessed Friday. Yeehaw!"
Hopefully that was a good one. And also, thank you so much for the support. I actually saw that apparently Ashley started off a super chatting challenge with Junebug72 and Junebug, which was interesting, and I thank you for that, Ashley. And so, to kind of get y'all all in the gambit, including you, Junebug, thank you to all three of y'all so much for the support. Y'all are regular supporters of this channel and help us to keep this thing alive day by day, and I've got to thank y'all so much for y'all's contribution in keeping this stream and this channel alive. Without y'all, it wouldn't be possible. Also, another quick mention, it's not happened yet, but I'm pretty sure that this will have to be the direction we're moving in, because I've noticed that, because I was checking out the monetization ability, because if I ever went on into other videos that were not about Ukraine, I would probably have to run ads on them to even try and cover the expenditures of making the videos. And so I actually found out that most of the time, due to the rules on YouTube, I would probably have limited ads or no ads at all. And so I would still rely on y'all to keep this thing running. So we may have to make a Patreon in the future. I'm not entirely sure, but I do want to keep y'all apprised of that. Just in case. So with that, thank you to all of y'all once again, and with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again, Junebug, for the support, and also for your wife as well, because both of y'all are incredibly nice people, and it was an absolute pleasure talking to y'all a while ago. I remember that, and your wife is a very interesting person, and I didn't get to talk to you much. She, like just to let y'all know, she kind of harassed him to get on the mic, and he was like, "Oh, hey, I appreciate you so much, man." And I was like, "No problem at all," but, like, I could tell you were wanting to do something else at that time, and that's totally fine, but thank you so much once again. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on, we now have a $50 super chat from Trister1, who says, "Good job, guys."
And thank you so much for the support, and I'm glad that you have been enjoying this channel as well. It's wonderful to hear good words, and I just got to thank you so much once again for the kind words and the support in helping us to keep this thing going. And so with that, I hope that does address that comment, and I think that may have been the last super chat of this segment, if I'm correct.
Let's see. I think that was the second to last one, actually.
Okay, all
I'm not
right,
sure.
then we'll move on to the next one, which will be the last one, I suppose.
All right, so the next one is from none other than Duncan VR, who puts in a $22 donation. And folks, you know what that means. When Duncan puts in a super chat, it's time for Matt to make some strange noises. So Duncan said, "This is Matthew being questioned by the FSB, in which he replied, ba, 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 woof, moo, woof, woof, meow, ba, ba, meow, 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 ba, 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 oink, oink, meow, meow, moof, woof. Putin is looking for his blow-up doll, ba, 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 where is it? Meow, ba, ba, long more, spot equals spam."
Oh, I love it. Matthew, you almost sound like a Morse code when you do that. You're like, bop, 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 spam, bop, 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 bop.
Now see, Duncan made that an extremely long one tonight because he knew last night he didn't get me good enough, so he had to go all the way and use all the characters up in the super chat to try to make me go forever. But Duncan, that's a pretty good one, and actually, that's not a bad strategy. If the FSB ever did question me, I probably would reply with ba ba ba. And after they say that, then they would probably kick me in the head over that. But not a bad strategy.
They would put bamboo shoots under your fingernails or something. Probably something
maybe.
rough. But with that, I thank you so much once again, Duncan, for the support. And of course, I actually answered your question at the very beginning of the stream. You said, "Does Matthew enjoy reading my super chats?" And I said he dreads them, and he really does at this point. He's like, whenever we see it coming, he goes, "Oh my god!" He's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna have to read that." But of course, it's all in good fun, and we thank you so much for supporting this channel and helping us to keep on running. And also, I'd like to, before we round out this question segment, I would like to address this because my world is completely fallen apart. Junebug said that Junebug72 isn't his wife. And that's actually a shocker to me because I remember when I talked to Junebug72, I think she said that Junebug in the chat was her husband. I'm not really, maybe I misheard that, but Now my mind is blown. I'll have to go back and check on that again, but I remember that being a different way. So with that, I hope that kind of answers that question. Well, addresses that fairly well. I'll have to look into this. We've now got some drama, high drama going on. And so we're now moving into our final segment of news for the night, starting off in the Kharkiv area. The first bit of news we got was that the Russians are apparently using suicide drones. You see, a suicide drone in the Russian military, unlike the Ukrainians, is a normal drone that has been forced to sign a contract and therefore has decided to end itself. We can now see this drone being prepared to launch. Damn, well, that was a launch. I mean, like, it almost ripped the thing apart. Look at that, man. Goodness, it literally was flinging up, like, smoke and stuff off of the drone. Golly! I mean, like, I'm surprised that thing didn't rip apart. We can now see them looking down at what's supposedly Ukrainian forces. We see what appeared to be an artillery hit. Or the suicide drone, I can't really tell you which. It doesn't really look like this drone's doing a lot of suicide, and it looks like it's doing a lot of looking. And so with that, that's the end of this little video. And once again, Russia's just coming up with whatever story they want. So with that, we're now moving on into the next bit of news from Kharkiv, which is a lot better, where we can see that the 40th Artillery Brigade was hitting the Russians where it counts, which is straight onto their infantry. When you see that the artillery hit right there on that tree line, black smoke is now billowing out, showing that it did hit something. And now we're seeing a little bit of a poofing smoking fire that has white smoke coming off of it, which shows us that it's ammunition. The occasional flare up here and there. Much like a normal relationship, it has its heated moments. Now it's emitting black smoke. This fire is very confused as to what it really is, whether it's a vehicle fire or an ammunition fire. We can't really tell. You hear someone have to clear their throat a little bit as they watch this. Their throat is getting what do you call it? Man, I forgot the name of it. Like swelling up, their throat swelling up from seeing this wonderful video. Ooh, wait a minute. That was not the normal little flare-up right there. That's an explosion. Quite a big one at that. It even made the cameraman jump, and he's behind a computer screen. Now we got a little mushroom cloud poofing off into the distance. These guys are reacting to it like it's a sports video. With that, that's the end of that video. It is great to see that the 40th Brigade was able to hit more Russians, and pretty well from what we could tell. Moving on over to the village of Vesely, we could see that the Azov unit in this area, I believe it's the Azov Kiev Regiment, was hitting the Russians as well today. At Ternova, which is actually beyond Vesely a little bit. So here we go. We now move that marker into the accurate spot. For some reason, I read the other village earlier. You now hear the music rolling. When you see the drone moving forward, and the artillery is already hitting before this drone can get in position. We can now see a little blurred out person down there on the ground. And we can see the artillery still coming in on this village. And with that, that's the end of that video. And it's good to see that the Ukrainians have really taken the initiative in this area and started to shell the Russians wherever they could. It doesn't show that the Ukrainians are conducting any kind of counterattacks at the moment in taking this ground, but they are inflicting a pretty decent amount of damage to the Russians all over the area. Moving on beyond that, we have, of course, had nothing to report from the Chuhuv and Balaklia area as normal. There's nothing that's happened here. But down in Izium today, we did see a Russian tank go up like some kind of a Michael Bay movie. And so here's this video real quick. And when I say Michael Bay, some of y'all are like, yeah, like, it really could it? But y'all are about to see, this is literally Michael Bay.
Єсть, нахуй! Оце красиво було!
I've never seen a tank blow up like that before. I mean, like, the brightness of the orange, this is literally a Michael... I gotta pull that up. So just as a direct comparison. Michael Bay explosion. See? See? It's literally the same. This is like a Hollywood explosion nearly with all of the orange fire in this explosion. Michael Bay is out there abusing his staff, the actors, and cussing everyone out as he blows up this tank, I promise you.
Єсть, нахуй! Оце красиво було!
Also, we can see a turret toss happen there.
Оце нахуй! Добрий день, блядь, сука! Що там, зетка, за наших, нахуй?
And so with that, that's the end of that video. And once again, it was nice to see that the Ukrainians were able to knock out that tank and even bring back Michael Bay, which honestly, I don't know. I mean, like, I've never been a big fan of his movies. Kind of a little too flashy for me. Anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving out of that area in the Izium region. And also, as a quick clarification, Junebug72 actually said that when her husband came to the microphone when I was in that call, he was not Junebug, like the one in the chat, but that's where she got the name for the account, was because he was nicknamed Junebug, and so she just named the account Junebug72. So apparently that was a misunderstanding on my end, so I hope y'all can kind of see why I thought that, but we clarified that now. Sorry about that once again, Junebug and Junebug72.
So, Enforcer, when I say Junebug without the 72 on the end, I'm referring to the husband, and when I say Junebug72, it's the wife.
No, you got it confused like me now, like I just had it.
Wait, what?
Junebug and Junebug72 are totally different. They're not related or married whatsoever. Junebug72 has a husband with the nickname Junebug, but that is not the same Junebug that's in our live chat. Now you can kind of see where my confusion came from, because I thought her Junebug husband was the same as the Junebug in our live chat. And so that was quite a screw up. Honestly, it seems like it confused Matthew just about the same as it did me, but still, it's good to have that cleared up. Sorry to both of y'all once again. Didn't want to say that y'all were married and weren't. So now that we've cleared that up, sorry once again. That's a little embarrassing.
I think we're still confused, but we'll have to go with it for now.
Also,
I've seen everybody in the live chat say, I'm so confused.
Even Bass Girls like y'all are confusing me. Just to make it clear, just to let y'all know, Junebug and Junebug72 are not husband and wife. They're not. They're entirely separate people, just with similar account names. And also, Running Eagle said, emotional damage. Anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving further down the front. We have not heard anything from the Cave Monastery area today, nor the Liman and Slovyansk area, but we have gotten some news near Verno Kamyanka, where we've seen that some Russian soldiers were hit by Ukrainian fire today. When you see a lone Russian, and also, what type of music was that? Wales? I have no idea what kind of music that is. Anyways, when you see
Sort of reminiscent of North Korean music a little bit.
Yeah, where are you, dear Generalissimo? And so,
Yes.
so you see the Russian standing right there, and he gets hit. And then he falls to the ground. Of course, probably heavily wounded. Some more Russians, for once, they try and show some compassion and come get the guy. But that comes back to bite them as another artillery shell lands and gets all of them. And so with that, that's the end of the video. And it's interesting to see that the only time over the recent week that we've seen the Russians actually show some compassion, it didn't really turn out good for them in the end. With that, we're now going to be moving down to Verno Kamyanka itself, where we can see that some Georgian volunteers came under Russian fire today in their foxholes. And so without further ado, here's the video.
Opening door.
And those rounds are falling pretty close.
Where is it, man? Do you see the drone? No, something hit a fucking... Yes, honestly. Coming. There we go. Hee, one more.
He was about to say yeehaw right there. He went hee.
I think it's 120. Yeah, 120. That's it.
120, yes sir. Yeehaw!
120, let's go. Let's just add another 300 to that and get 420. Now the viewers are going to start
Coming
up
now.
conspiracy theories again over that one.
Yes, I knew it. I knew it.
No, not coming. Coming. Yay! Pa. Aha. Kada mo kara. Namskwel. Yep, I have a helmet on.
Amen.
Say what?
I said amen.
Amen to what?
Keep your head down.
Oh. And so with that, that's the end of the video, and it's interesting to see that the Georgian volunteers are still there, and they've been there since the very beginning of the war. And so with that, that's the end of that video. Once again, showing that there is some action going on in this area, but as far as we've been able to tell, the Ukrainians still hold the line and even pushed back the 503rd Marine Brigade, which we also call the Stoffel Brigade here on stream, pushed back and retook the village of Bila Orivka just yesterday, and we also heard about the Ukrainians taking a couple more villages south of Izium, although we haven't been able to confirm which ones those are through video and picture evidence. So with that, we're now going to be moving behind the lines to the area of Nikiforivka, I think I pronounced that correctly, where you see two low-flying Ukrainian Mi-8s and a soldier on the ground pretending like he's an airplane. So here's the video. When you see the helicopters coming in, we can now see the Ukrainian pretending to be an airplane. And we can actually see, this was really cool, he was doing like a wing wobble thing down here on the ground, and the helicopter actually obliged him and did pretty much a roll of its own up there. Check it out. That's pretty cool. And so with that, that's the end of the video, and pretty funny to see that the helicopter pilot actually did a little wing wiggle for that guy on the ground, and really pretty cool video. Also, I gotta say, for Mi-8s, I really do like the camo pattern that they put on the side of these Mi-8s. It's like that digital greenish, tan, brown camo pattern that they put on most of their helicopters. And honestly, for post-Soviet helicopters and their designs, it doesn't look that bad, honestly. It could be a lot worse if you look at other Mi-8s. But that's the end of the video, and that's all we have to report from this northern Donbass area. Once again, no activity to really speak of to a large degree. But once we move down towards Popasna, we can see that there was a video with no audio today whatsoever, which was odd, of S-27s from the LPR at work. So here's the video. When you see this guy here, he honestly looks like someone that goes to my college. We can now see the peon that's in the tree line. We now see the peon fire. It almost busted out his eardrums and blinded him. And that is quite a facial expression right there. Look at that.
Bliat.
When someone wakes you up at night and tells you that a drone almost bombed them in their sleep, that's the face expression you have. Now we can see him trying to pick his nose right there, and his finger almost got blown up to the top of his nostril. Still no audio, kind of weird. Now you see him standing here. And I always love when people try and do any kind of reporting around an artillery piece and act like that's a great idea. It's such a bad idea. Like, rather than the cool factor of having them on screen, it's going to just throw you off. But you now see a kid from the Hitler Jugend sitting here in the gunner's chair of the peon. He looks to be about 16 years old, and the guy behind him looks like he was a geriatric, probably came straight out of the retirement home after the Great Patriotic War. So with that, we got a pretty decent, eclectic mix of people operating this unit, much like you would think there would be in the LPR. Moving on well behind the lines into the Luhansk region, we saw that another an LPR official was car bombed today, and we actually have the video showing that. When you see this man here dressed up like he's from the 50s in a white t-shirt and blue jeans, very Western of him, watching this car as it drives by with the LPR official in it, and then the car goes up like the IRA. Oh. And then starts rolling down the road, and from what we were told, the driver, who was the official, was instantly killed, and I don't think it would take a lot to see that. Partisan activities have been increasing recently, especially one-off assassination attempts like this. And I wouldn't really call these attempts, I would call these more so just assassinations outright. But with that, that's the end of the video, and another successful attempt to take out a collaborator. This collaborator was called Lyshev. And so we will try and get some more information on specifically who they were, but it was somewhere in the Luhansk region, so we placed it outside of Luhansk city, although we don't know exactly where it was in Luhansk. With that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of news, down in the Orlivka area, where we've seen a Stugna attack occur successfully. And so here's the video. When you see it hit, no audio, oddly enough. When you see it hit a second time, and we can see it hit a third time, I think. Nope, I think we're just watching the vehicle burning and slowly rolling. And so with that, that's the end of that video, and great to see that the Ukrainians are still knocking out Russian units in the Orlivka area. Unfortunately, unlike Orlivka, while we do know that there is an ongoing offensive in the Pisky area, we don't know what kind of success the Russians have had, because we do know over the past day or two, the Russians have made ground in this area. So we don't know if they've made ground today or not. Hopefully not. Hopefully the Ukrainians have been able to hold the line, but unfortunately we have no news to speak of from the Pisky area, the Marinka area, or the Avdiivka area. That front has fallen silent today in terms of video and picture evidence. Moving on further down the line, actually to continue on with our partisan activity stories, we did see that another collaborator was assassinated in Berdyansk today in another partisan attack. This collaborator was called Alexander Kolesnikov, who was the deputy police chief of Berdyansk, who, of course, as the title suggests, was a collaborator. The partisans attacked him, apparently somewhere on the street. He was then transported to a hospital where he promptly died. We now see the police. Oh, actually, I believe that's his car that was attacked, and an ambulance responding to the scene to gather whatever remains. And so with that, that's the end of that video, and we can start to see that the partisans behind the lines are getting very open with their activities, and they're starting to take some pretty big risks, especially going after collaborators and enemy officials, which is very interesting to see, and I do hope that they keep up those kinds of activities, as it will start to dissuade collaborators from continuing to collaborate, or it will make them flee, which either way, that's rather good. Moving on up towards the area of Huelapol, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, I know I did not, we can see Belarusian volunteers moving across the front line and operating a French-donated Milan ATGM. We can hear some bass beats running behind them. Everyone's got to have bass in the war. It makes up the base of your armed forces. And the copyrights are rolling in. The lawyers are lining up. They're getting ready to sue me. And we're watching these guys line up the Milan. When you see them looking through the crosshairs, just like those attorneys out there that are about to sue me for copyright. And we see that the Milan was launched. We can now see them reloading it and firing it again. Now we see a still image of the tree line where that Milan hit, and we could see some white smoke coming out of it, suggesting that they probably hit some kind of ammunition for an artillery piece, perhaps, but not necessarily a vehicle. That would be black smoke if it did that. So with that, that's the end of that video, and we're now going to be moving all the way over to Vasilivka, where we can also see that Russians hit near the Zaporizhia. Russians were hit near the Zaporizhia area as well by the 72nd Separate Wow. Look at me butchering all of these words, and I supposedly am an English speaker, and I can't even get it right. Anyways, the 72nd Separate Mechanized Brigade was firing artillery at Russians near this hillside in the Zaporizhia area. Once again, more music, but we can see the artillery slamming into the hillside, and these Russians just trying to go with it. It's never a good thing for them to just try and go with it. It usually never ends well, and we can see that the artillery is following them a little bit. But with that, a pretty short video, but still pretty interesting to see, and it's good to know that the Ukrainian artillery is able to hone in on the Russians and get them wherever they be. Now that we've covered all the Southern Front news, once again, I don't really have to explain this all too much, but it's still in stalemate, as usual. We're now going to be moving down to Crimea, where we've seen that in the town of Nova, which sounds Dutch, honestly, it looks Dutch, we could see that in this small town, which almost looks like it would just be a military installation. Let's see what it looks like. Wow, they're breaking the fourth dimension here. It looks like the ocean splits in two. So let's go and try and find another one. Alright. So the camera's cockeyed, but from what we can tell here, it just looks like a lot of flats. Anyways, the air defenses in this area were activated, and we're trying to shoot down Ukrainian missiles flying deep into Crimea. So here's the video of the air defenses around the town. And 1 million watermarks. It sounds like a shulka in the distance. But I can't really tell you for certain. Looks like a fireworks show.
Sounds like the ghost of the A-10 Warthog.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? That's the end of the video, and I love all the watermarks that say shot on it, like we didn't know that already, that it's a shot video. Anyways, with that, it's great to see that Ukrainian tanks are still penetrating deep into the peninsula of Crimea, and hopefully are attacking military infrastructure and targets that we haven't been able to be apprised of yet. So with that, we've now covered all of the news from around the world and in Ukraine, except for one last bit before we get to the speech from President Zelensky. We can actually see that a lot of Ukrainians, specifically women and children, are still leaving the country for safer areas in Eastern Europe. And we saw that today in the Kyiv railway station here in this video.
Okay, Poland. The Poles still do a killer job of preparing and helping all Ukrainians.
Actually, this does not look like the Kyiv railway station. I think this is actually a Polish railway station.
coming into Poland to get out of Ukraine.
But as we can see, a lot of women and children, and I hope that they're able to find places that where they can take care of themselves and wait it out until the war is over. And so with that, now that we've covered all of the news from around the country today, we're now going to be moving to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 184 of the war, and the 184th day that President Zelensky has addressed the world and his nation in the ongoing war. Without further ado, here is the speech.
Добрий вечір, Україна.
And of course, we can't forget the subtitles.
Українці, українки, європейці. Нашим атомникам, усім спеціалістам енергетичної галузі вдається оберегти Запорізьку атомну станцію від найгіршого сценарію, який постійно провокується російськими силами. Наразі станцію вдалося підключити до мережі. Вітаю, вона виробляє енергію для України. Хочу підкреслити, що ситуація залишається дуже ризикованою, небезпечною. Будь-яке повторення вчорашніх подій, тобто будь-яке відключення станції від мережі, будь-які дії Росії, які можуть спровокувати відключення реакторів, знов поставлять станцію за крок від катастрофи. Тому так важливо, щоб місія МАГАТЕ прибула на станцію якнайшвидше і допомогла тримати АЕС під українським контролем у постійному режимі. Тому так важливо, щоб російські війська вийшли зі станції та сусідніх районів і щоб зникла загроза обстрілів самої станції чи ліній електропередач з неї. Українські дипломати, наші партнери продовжують в щоденному режимі боротися за безпеку для ЗАЕС. І сьогодні я хочу подякувати усім тим, хто мобілізує реакцію світу на російський радіаційний шантаж, усім нашим атомникам. Ви молодці, ви круті, усім нашим енергетикам. Ви міцні, чия професійність зараз в прямому сенсі слова рятують Україну і Європу, коли долають наслідки російського терору на станції. Сьогодні ми можемо зробити і перші висновки про порятунок багатьох країн, багатьох народів від продовольчої кризи, яку Росія так хотіла загострити до реального голоду. Майже місяць працює експортна зернова ініціатива. І за цей час з 3 наших морських портів – Чорноморськ, Одеса, Південний – експортували перший з 24 лютого 1 мільйон тонн агропродукції. Це перемога. Це означає на практиці, що українське зерно і сам факт того, що запрацював український напрямок постачання на світовий продовольчий ринок, дозволяють не допускати хаосу на ринку і знімають загостроту продовольчої кризи і не допускають катастрофічного дефіциту. Україна була, є і буде серед гарантів продовольчої безпеки. 44.
I believe people were saying this is an old speech.
An old speech?
I'm not sure if it is. It doesn't look old, but I'm seeing people say that.
But this was published today by the Office of the President of Ukraine. I got this straight from their website.
Huh. Yeah, so they're saying now, okay, maybe not. But yeah, I think this is the most recent one, so...
This is the most recent one. I don't get them from anywhere now, but straight from the President of Ukraine's website. So this is the most recent speech that we have. So with that, we're going to let this continue.
Судна, до речі, з українською агропродукцією вже направлені в 15 країн світу. Маємо 70 заявок на прибуття суден на завантаження. Мета – вийти на обсяг 3 мільйона тонн по морю експорту щомісячно. І це надзвичайно важливо для Африки, Азії, Європи. Важливо і те, щоб в нашому суспільстві усвідомлювали, цей експорт не лише підтримує міжнародну суб'єктивність України, суб'єктність нашу, а й дає робочі місця для наших громадян. Це сотні тисяч робочих місць, дає доходи для українських компаній до нашого бюджету. І, що дуже важливо, дає кошти для посівної в наступному році. Я досі пам'ятаю радість портових робітників в Одесі, коли вони не просто дізналися, а побачили реально, що порт відновив роботу. Це дійсно важливий результат для України, для Чорноморського регіону, для усього світу. Я вдячний всім, хто долучився до цієї роботи, ініціативи. Наголошую, що це повна відповідальність партнерів не допускати будь-яких російських провокацій, зриву експорту. Продовжуємо мобілізацію інформаційної підтримки для України. Зараз такий час, що потрібно шукати ще більше нестандартних каналів поширення правди про війну Росії проти нас з вами, нашої незалежності, про потреби нашої держави. Ми постійно знаходимо нових інформаційних друзів, реальних друзів, партнерів в захисті свободи і в боротьбі з дезінформацією Росії. Так сьогодні говорив з Джиммі Феллоном, і дуже відомий американський телеведучий актор про варіанти того, як привернути увагу до України, як донести правду до Сполучених Штатів, до людей, які, як ми можемо ще допомогти нам, Україні, і це його головне питання. Питання, як перемогти в цій інформаційній війні проти брехні Російської Федерації. І ситуація на передовій залишається без суттєвих змін. Цими днями наші воїни роблять все можливе, щоб зменшити вогневий і логістичний потенціал окупантів. Думаю, ви всі бачите відповідні новини про знищення баз окупантів, їхніх складів, тих переправ через річки, якими вони користуються. І чим успішніше ми будемо в цьому, наша розвідка, наша армія, Служба безпеки, тим швидше зможемо змінити фронтову ситуацію на нашу користь. Збройні сили України, весь наш народ щоденно доводить російським окупантам, що у них немає і не буде шансів вберегтися на українській землі. Настане день, коли окупанти це визнають, або їх просто не залишиться. Вічна слава усім вам, захисники, наші захисниці, нашої держави. Вічна слава нашому сильному, незламному, мудрому, прекрасному народу. Слава Україні!
Slava Ukraini. And that is the end of President Zelensky's speech on day 184. And that also rounds out our news segment for tonight as well. We're now going to be moving on into the question segment and answering all of the super chats that we've gotten tonight and recognizing everyone who helps our channel to keep alive, and also answering as many live chats as we can. Now, just as a special mention, I would love if you have not subscribed to this channel, if you would, and also hit the bell button as well. It helps to let you know when these streams are live, and if you did enjoy tonight's stream, you'll be able to be updated whenever any of these videos drop. We've also started up the, I guess you could call them short videos, although this one today was around 7 minutes and 40 seconds long, which isn't exactly short anymore, but still, we've started up a new series of videos as well, and it will apprise you when those come up as well, because it won't be at a regular time like last time, at a specific time of day every day. It's just going to be whenever I can put it out, because I have to go to college now in person, and sometimes that will directly interfere with a steady upload schedule. So with that, I hope that addresses that real quick. Please subscribe. It does help us out a lot, and it makes me feel good to know that we are constantly getting closer to 100K, because right now, if I check, just to let y'all know, kind of as like a Lee Spring Army thing, we are at 93,467 subscribers. Quite a number, and I would love to see it eventually finally get up to 100,000. And so with that, we are now moving on into the question segment. But before we get to the questions, what do we have in those polls, Matthew?
All right, so we do have one poll that has been running for quite some time now, and the question is, do you think the partisans are effectively striking fear in collaborators and Russian leadership? So it's a pretty unanimous poll here. It looks like 72% said yes, the Russians will get paranoid. 25% say possible, but it's unclear for now. And 3% say no, they are not scared. So to me, it seems like the most obvious answer to this poll will be that the Russians will get paranoid. Because if you see a lot of folks getting car bombed, I don't know how you can't get paranoid, because if I was in the Russian government, I'd be scared to drive my car. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I would honestly have to say that I believe the Russians would be scared all over the place. They've now seen multiple people get car bombed over the past week, and so I would say that if you were a lower Russian official, I would never feel safe at this point, just because so many others have been taken out at this point. So that's kind of my answer to the poll, and so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our Super Chat questions, we have the first one, which is from, let's see here, Trister1, who puts in a $50 donation and says, "Good job, guys."
And Trister, thank you so much for saying we're doing a good job, and thank you so much for helping us out to be able to keep on doing a good job. It means a lot to us that a lot of people enjoy our work and want us to keep on doing it. And hopefully, I will be able to put out a very good video here soon about the possibility of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. One thing that is kind of keeping me back from that video actually being made and finally released is that I've hashed over the general script and outline of the video to my mom, and my mom isn't really a military-minded person or someone who works with numbers a lot, and so she stopped me in the middle of reading it and said, "It's boring," and I was like, oh, well, okay, so now I've been sitting here trying to figure out how to make this information interesting, because, you know, that's really my, like, I guess you could say, test audience right there, and unfortunately I'm running into roadblock after roadblock, and that's why even the audio of this, like me just talking it out, hasn't even happened yet, is because I'm still trying to figure out a way to make numbers interesting. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope everyone's looking forward to those videos as well, because I hope that we can start to move this channel into the direction of all kinds of news. And you will still cover Ukraine, don't get me wrong, because I know every time I say that, everyone's going like, oh, so you're not covering Ukraine anymore? No, we will still cover Ukraine. It's just that I would love to move on to other topics as well, because, you know, like I do, I can talk about anything. I can talk about the Blitz in London and the kind of damage it caused and all that kind of stuff, and I just like to talk about that stuff, and I would like to make videos about it too. And so with that, I hope that kind of answers the comment in a way, and thank you so much once again for the kind words as well. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the wonderful support.
And I also have to say, folks, that the Enforcer is not lying when he says it's really hard to make a video. If you've ever tried to make one, you'll know it's tough to balance keeping it interesting while also putting enough information in there. Me and the Enforcer have been brainstorming videos for a very long time. We started off with a nuclear video, and sadly that one didn't go anywhere. We were never able to refine it good enough to become an actual video. But we are determined to finally get a video out. So hopefully we can have one soon. But yes, it is actually pretty difficult, believe it or not. I wouldn't have thought so, but when you actually try to do it, it is very difficult.
You know what? Real quick. I'm going to try and ad lib for a minute here of this script. Well, at least a loose script here, and throw up a poll when I'm done, Matthew. I'll tell you exactly when to put it up and let people vote. Was that actually interesting to them or not? Because, you know, because we both know Mama, and while she helps out a lot, she's not really minded like that, because while she finds these numbers boring, she will listen to the numbers on climate zones, the perfect amount of water for a plant, the different kinds of plants. And so I don't know, it may just be Mama being Mama, I don't know. So let me run this by the whole audience here, since we've got like 4,700 people on, and let's see what y'all think. So an invasion of Taiwan has been on the minds of a lot of people around the world recently, and has been something that has definitely entered the sphere of public attention recently. The Chinese have been threatening to invade Taiwan after a delegation of U.S. representatives visit the island, and the real question here is the invasion really possible? Well, to start off, we know that the Chinese have around 76 landing craft that could be used for this invasion. And once we crunch the numbers on how many troops this fleet can actually carry, we get a figure of around 15,500 troops that could be carried, along with 50 tanks, 110 armored personnel carriers, and around 11,000 tons of supplies, which could keep this landing party running for a couple of days. The problem, however, is that these ships have very little anti-aircraft and anti-ship defenses on board. A single harpoon missile would largely be unfazed when attacking most of the ships in this fleet, except for 5. And to cut it off there, so that way I don't go through the entire thing, I would like to know if y'all think that is good or not. So throw up a poll, Matthew. Did that seem interesting or not? Yes or no, off of that 1-minute segment, and hopefully it's good. And if it isn't, we'll try and work on it and see if we can make it interesting somehow. But with that, we are now on to the next question after Matthew throws up that poll.
All right. So there goes the poll right now. Should be up. There we go. And the poll is now up. So feel free to vote on that poll and let us know what you think. We're definitely in need of input, because we have, I guess, hit, I don't know, writer's block or something like that.
Oh, damn, it's unanimous. Jeez.
And what's it showing?
It's 87%.
Oh, yes.
We'll let the votes come. We'll let the votes come in a little bit more, but and also just to let y'all know, when I say script, I actually didn't read a script. All I have is some notes on what these ships are capable of doing, and I was holding that in front of me just to make sure I could get my numbers correct. But apparently,
and also, go ahead, Enforcer.
Oh, go ahead. No, you can go on ahead.
So also, folks, let us know this, because here's my theory on YouTube videos. I think people are more interested in shorter videos with enough information to be interesting, but not enough information to overwhelm you. So, you know, things that are not necessarily surface level, they dive a little under the surface, but they don't, like, you know, submarine to the bottom of the ocean, so to speak. But let us know if you are the type person that likes the shorter videos, or do you like the more detailed videos? And we might actually put up a subsequent poll to ask that question, because that's basically where me and the Enforcer kind of have a disconnect, and we're trying to figure out what's the best compromise between the two.
Also, real quick, before we keep this train rolling, someone actually asked a question that we will cover in the script. Well, actually in the video when it comes out. Paolo Mayorana, this is your time to shine, man, because I like your question and we're going to answer it. So 15,000 personnel, can they do turnaround trips? I did the math, and to unload a ship, it may take anywhere in between 1 to 2 days, depending on, well, even longer than that sometimes. It could take up to a week for an incredibly large ship to load back up and then set sail from port. And a round trip, okay, this will take a little bit of explanation, but the fastest ship, well, the slowest ship in this fleet can only travel at 14 knots top speed. That means the entire landing fleet would have to travel at 14 knots to be able to keep its formation and arrive at the beach at the exact same time, so that way they don't get picked off piecemeal before they all get there. So, going off of that number and the distance from Guangzhou to Taichung City, which is the shortest area that the Chinese Navy could cross, it would take them a total of 7.5 hours to make that voyage. Once they get there, they then have to offload the troops and supplies, which will take multiple more hours. I'm not really sure how long it would take. I would have to do a lot of number crunching to figure that out. And then they would have to do another 7.5 hour trip back across the strait, back to Guangzhou, or Guangzhou? I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. Anyways, they would have to then go back to port and then reload stocks and supplies again, which could take another day or 2 or 3 before they get set back off. So this is going all out for the Chinese Navy, and that initial landing party of 15,500 men would pretty much be on that beach for a couple of days without any kind of reinforcements or resupply. So it seems like it would be pretty difficult to do. But then again, I'm almost going through the entire video probably at this point, but I hope that does answer your question, because I liked it. And so with that, we're now going to move back on into the Super Chat questions. Make sure to recognize everyone who's helped us to keep alive. And so with that, on to the next one.
All right, so next up, we have a $50 Super Chat from Praise Adonai, who says, Enforcer and Matt, could we have a Yeehaw contest between you two? Contest decided by poll, $50 for the winner, Yeehaw. And I'm actually would be interested to see who wins that. And obviously, we'll have to take down the poll that we currently have up. But what say you, Enforcer?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll let you go ahead, because everyone knows you as Yeehaw Man. So go on ahead, Matthew.
All right, so here we go, folks. I'm going to do my Yeehaw, Enforcer's going to do his, and then we're going to put up a poll to judge who won. So, preparing here.
Yeehaw! Yeehaw! All right, so now that y'all have heard both of ours, let's get a vote up. Who did it better, Enforcer or Enforcer Matt?
I feel kind of weak on that one, so I'm not sure if I'm going to win that, but let's see here. It was actually decent. I couldn't hear the Enforcers. He cut out for some reason.
Oh, wait a minute.
Let me get that poll up.
Let me put up my OBS then. I'm going to back up a little bit, so that way it can come through right. So give me just a second. Can y'all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah! Oh, man.
So let's see who likes what the most. I think that one was a lot worse than the first one, though. But with that, let's get that poll up, and then we're going to move on into the next one.
All right, and also Praise Adonai, big thanks to you for putting in that $50 support. We appreciate you very much. And let me put in a vote for myself real quick. Whoa!
Oh, God.
Okay,
it's unanimous. Wow.
I'll be fair. I'll be fair, folks. I have had a lot of practice on the Yeehaws. Enforcer rarely ever gets to do one. I do one all the time. So let's see. Yeah, I saw Fat Wong 36 say the exact same thing that I just said. So good point. But anyways, while that poll runs, we're going to move on to our next super chat so we can recognize everyone's support. And up next, we have a $21.95 donation from Kathy Carr, who says, Enforcer, OPSEC is the key to life. Question, when do you think they will hit Kerch Bridge and how?
It's great. OPSEC is life, and we try our best to make sure that we don't violate Ukrainian OPSEC on this channel, which is something that a lot of people have scoffed at, and honestly, I don't understand because loose lips do sink ships. Anyways, moving on from that rabbit hole into the Kerch Bridge. I think that the Kerch Bridge will be struck in time. I think that it may be within range of Ukrainian missile batteries at this point. It's just that they're trying to figure out how to hit the bridge in its weakest spots to cause the most damage, and that'll probably take some time for the Ukrainians to figure out a lot of computations and, I guess you could say, testing on models or theories before they actually conduct an attack. But I do think they have the ability now, considering that they're reaching all the way to Sevastopol. And so I would say give it about until the end of this year, and we may see the Kerch Bridge being attacked directly at some point. So with that, I hope that does answer that question, at least to the best of my abilities, but I'm not entirely sure. Once again, take it with a grain of salt, because we don't have a lot of public figures or timetables or information to work off of with the Ukrainians and the Kerch Bridge. And so with that, I hope that does kind of give a little bit of disclaimer there, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we actually have two super chats. We have a $20 donation from Kaltenberg and a $20 donation from Chris Mack. Kaltenberg says, "Yee!" and Chris Mack says, "Haw!"
That haw came out like you were hurting here, like, "Haw!" But with that, thank you to both of y'all so much for the support, and I love how y'all made a combined yee-haw. And also, everyone loves Matthew's yeehaws, and I can't lie. I wouldn't try and take any fire from him. He does some pretty fire yeehaws. I don't think anyone can get around that, and so I can see why he's unanimously winning that poll. But one thing, honestly, Matthew, moving off of that and onto something else, if I can scroll up and find that poll again, if it's still around in the live chat, 80% of our viewers out of the 426 that voted thought that the sample script, the just improv that I was reading off, well, not even reading off, that I was just coming up with on the spot, was good. I was honestly blown away by that, because I didn't think that a lot of people would be that interested in detail like that, but it looks like a lot of people would be. And so, since we didn't give that poll a lot of due credit, it looks like I need to try and get a testing audience with our viewers, because it seems like they do like that kind of content. But anyways, with that, we're now going to move on to the next question.
All right, and real quick, just trying to get caught up here and make sure I didn't miss anything, and it doesn't look like I have. And also, folks, we will be following up with a second poll about the video format, just to get a little bit more information about y'all's preferences. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat, we have a $21 donation from Ashley, who says, "No question, just recognizing the best hard at work reporting the latest news from Ukraine."
And Ashley, I gotta thank you so much, because not only are you one of our Morse code decoders, but you are an incredibly kind and nice person. And I gotta thank you so much for supporting this channel, and also those incredibly kind words. Kind words resonate with me a lot, and I think about all of the viewers that say kind stuff about me, Matthew, and the efforts we put into making these streams. And I've got to say thank you so much once again for just being here and supporting this channel. And also, while I know that everyone can't super chat, and some people may feel like they don't need to, that's totally fine too. I thank you all so much just for being here and watching. We do, of course, super chats are our bread and butter. That's the only way we can survive and keep this channel running. And so I always make sure to recognize our super chatters a lot. But to everyone in the live chat who is just here every night, thank you all once again so much for watching. It does mean a lot to me that y'all do enjoy it and find this to be reliable and quality news. And so with that, thank you so much once again, Ashley. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a super chat from White Lightning 777, who puts in a $20 donation and says, "The Crimean Bridge is like the Bismarck. It must be destroyed."
And I would say yes. I would definitely agree with that. And also, another funny story. Well, I don't want to burden y'all with funny stories. I don't know. I mean, like, I know that some people are into them, some people are not. Some people hate the side stories. And, you know, while I like doing side stories, I don't want to bore y'all, but just as a quick side story, speaking of the sinking of the Bismarck, there was a ship involved in hunting down the Bismarck called the HMS Nelson, which was the Nelson-class battleship. And this thing It's pretty freaky looking. Don't know if you've ever seen it before, Matthew, but all the turrets are on the front of the ship, which is kind of odd.
That is wild.
It was a Washington Naval Treaty ship, so this thing was actually reduced in size a lot, and also firepower. And so the British nicknamed this class of ship the Cherry Tree class because it had been cut down by the Washington Naval Treaty. If you see the joke that they were making there,
huh?
You know, like how George Washington chopped down the cherry tree, and because of the Washington Naval Treaty, this ship was cut down a lot in size and firepower, and so they called it the cherry tree.
Okay,
so there we go.
I got you.
So anyways, this ship was ordered to hunt down the Bismarck, and actually came within firing range of the Bismarck. It fired off its 16-inch guns, and the guns were so powerful that people below deck saw red for a couple of seconds, and it actually buckled some of the decks up top. It literally started to bow them in from the raw force of the firepower of these guns. And so, it honestly, naval history can be incredibly interesting. It can also be a great bore at times, but this was one of the more interesting moments. The entire story of hunting down the Bismarck was just interesting through and through, and probably one of the best dramas to ever occur in the North Atlantic on the high seas. So with that, I hope that kind of addresses that side story real quick, and I would have to agree that the Kerch Bridge is a lot like the Bismarck and must be destroyed by any means. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, White Lightning 777, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, by the way, folks, if you are addressing a message to me in the live chat and I haven't responded, it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just simply because I'm trying to get caught up in the spreadsheet and also trying to add in that second poll that I mentioned a moment ago. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat, we have a $20 donation from Salty Squid, who says, "Sup, guys? How many operational tanks do you think the Russians have left? Thanks for your hard work, and Slava Ukraine."
And I thank you so much for the kind words. And now to answer that question before I get into that whole side, I believe that the Russians have around half of their main battle tanks operational at this point. Going off of their casualty statistics and assuming that they have around 4,000 operational main battle tanks out of their entire fleet, considering that they're getting very close to the 2,000 figure, I would say about 50% of their tanks have been destroyed and another 50% may be operational. Now, once again, that's just going off of their somewhat modern tanks and their force. They could pull out more T-62Ms. I don't know how many of those they have in storage, but that could add a decent amount to the overall number of tanks. But at the same time, it may not be contributing much to, I guess you could call it, the actual quality of their tank fighting force. It would be a huge detriment to it instead. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well. I know it's a little bit of a short one, but, you know, it's just working off of raw figures, which there's not a lot to talk about. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much for the support, and I hope that was the answer you were looking for, and hopefully it is working off of good numbers. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And next up, we have a $20 donation from David Moyers, who says, "Thanks a lot, Enforcer. Just about got my bowels back to normal after Steven Seagal. Then you go and show the Russian sphincter, and back to the head I go to go."
Oh, sorry about that. I'm very sorry. I hate to do that to people, but I have to show you what's going on over there because sometimes it's just stupid, and so I feel obligated to let y'all see it. But so I'm very sorry about that, but I do thank you so much for the support, and also the joke. I love that joke. That was a pretty good one. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And next up, we have a super chat from William Arrington, who puts in a $20 donation. And just don't mind that little weird pause there. But anyways, William says, "Keep up the great work, and have you taken your LSAT?" And William, we actually both have.
Yes, and I would say my LSAT score, but I don't know if it was good or bad compared to everyone else here. And, you know, while I'm not a person to ever feel like I'm, you know, made small by anything, for some reason, LSAT scores are always something I'm like, eh. So just for Matthew and me's sake, we both made 180s. We're going to Harvard. I'm just kidding.
No.
we didn't. We actually made, I guess you could call average scores, pretty much.
I would say, according to these statistics, we're about slightly above average.
Yeah, it's just a little bit.
Just slightly.
Just a little. I mean, like, it's a hairpin above average. And we pretty much scored the exact same. So with that, I hope that does kind of answer that question a little bit. And thank you so much for caring, because I actually took the LSAT a good while ago. It was actually like in March, I believe. And one thing that was funny then is that I was in this war stuff, and back then I was working around the clock, like literally when I woke up to when I went to sleep. And so there was very little time for me to study for the LSAT. And my parents were like, "Oh man, you need to study. You need to study. You're gonna bomb it. You're gonna do terrible." And I was like, "Don't worry, I got it." Because the joke at my house is that I'm always just joking around with, "I'm a winner," like I'll win in anything. Kind of how Seinfeld says, everything just kind of evens out for me. It kind of just works out for me in the end. I kind of joke about that a little because you can ask Matthew, somehow I'll do something and it just works. No one really knows how. I don't even know how, but it just does that. So I was joking around like that on the LSAT, took the test, and I actually ended up making fairly well. And I was pretty happy with it, so I never took it again. So I hope that kind of explains that story a little bit, and thank you so much once again for the support. And thank you so much for listening through some of these short stories like that. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right. And I will say, folks, I'm not ashamed to say it at all. The LSAT absolutely kicked my butt. But in the end, I did make a I would say, very good score, in my opinion. It is slightly above average, so not, Ivy League levels, but I would say that, and I want to answer this question, question from Heather Fitzgibbon, who said, "At least you passed. Does it benefit you to take it again?" And there's actually not such thing as passing the LSAT. It depends on what law school you're trying to go to. So they all have different requirements for what you have to make to be admitted. And does it benefit me to take it again? It could, but to be honest, I'm fine with the score I have. It's good enough to go where I'm trying to go. But yeah, that's just a little bit of insight into that nasty exam that is called the LSAT.
Oh, and it's
but anyways,
it's just so goofy sometimes with the questions and the answers. Like, I don't know how they would ever apply to real life. I don't know how they'd even apply to law school. It's just like, it's almost like the test is just trying to see what kind of mental gymnastics are you willing to put yourself through to get to the next level. That's almost what the test is like, it seems. Also,
it feels like it.
Also, to answer something else real quick, from Warren Edgar Gillespie, he said, "Hey Matt, does Enforcer play bagpipes?" Yes, I do. I've never played them on stream. I probably never will because it's just so freaking loud. But I do play bagpipes. That is true. But with that, we are on to the next one.
I saw NOYDB say, "Next time you take the LSAT, wear a GoPro." Oh yeah, God. That wouldn't work.
That would work.
That would work
so
completely.
Well. Yeah.
I can just hear a proctor right now. "Take that off, sir. You can't have that." But anyways, moving on to the next super chat, we have a $20 donation from NorCal Socks, who says, "What do you make of the recent casualty figures released? It's been reported that Ukraine has suffered roughly 9,000 military KIA, with the Russians more than double that since the start of the war. Do you find that accurate?"
I do not find the Russians suffering only double of 9,000 accurate. I do believe they are close to 46,000, and from what we could tell, it seems like the Ukrainians may be taking a quarter of Russian casualties. So right now they would be around the 12,000 range, and I believe that those numbers right there would be pretty fair, pretty accurate. And once again, I just gotta say this, casualty figuring and statistics are always off, even after wars are long over. We still don't have exact casualty statistics and figures from the Second World War. There is absolutely no way to get them, and that's one thing that I think a lot of people may not know. And just to let y'all in on a little bit of a secret, we have no idea how many people actually live in the world. No idea on the exact number. While we think there's around 7.5 to 8 billion, it could be more, it could be less. Well, really, it's always going to be more, because, for example, in the United States, filling out the census is not required by law. And so a lot of people, like say Birmingham has 1.5 million people on it according to the census, 200,000 people living within the Birmingham city area may have not filled out the census and are not accounted for. And so there may actually be 1.7 million people living in the Birmingham city metropolitan area, but they didn't fill out the census for us to know. And much like how the census is not actually reflective of the total U.S. population 100% to a T, casualty statistics in any war will never be perfectly accurate. So it's really just a guessing game of how accurate can it really be and how close are we? And there's absolutely no idea to know how close one really is. But I'm assuming that the Ukrainians have probably taken 12,000 casualties and the Russians have taken somewhere around 46.5. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Ashley, who says, "For Junebug."
And also, thank you so much for the support. And Junebug actually sent one in just a little bit later, I think. And so thank you so much once again. That was in vain, because if that was for Junebug, Junebug sent it in. I think that may have actually been the challenge thing that I was talking about earlier. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the comment in a way. And with that, we are on to the next one. And real quick, Matthew, let's see.
Are you about to say that question from Warren?
No, the question from Richard.
Richard. Let's see. Richard Daniel Jr.?
Let's see. Yes, it was further up in the chat.
He said, Kay Butler made a comment about enforcers spreading misinformation, bot or legit. Well, that would be a bot, but I didn't see it. But if I did, I would have removed them from the chat. But yeah, definitely a bot for sure.
Yeah, because we don't spread, just to make this clear, we don't spread misinformation, and if we get something wrong and someone does, and when I say challenge, let me make this clear. When I say challenge, I don't mean someone to sit there and say, oh, get your facts right, idiot, and say it like that. I will ban someone for that, because I don't talk to anyone disrespectfully, and I don't let anyone talk to me disrespectfully. But if you do see something that we say that's incorrect, if you say, hey, Enforcer, could you go and review that real quick, because I don't think that's accurate information. I think it may be this way. I will go and look into it, and if I am wrong, we do correct it on stream. So I just want to make that clear, because one thing that I think the modern world misses a lot these days is common respect. And I don't know why people act like they have a right these days to talk to random people like they're subhuman or degenerates or something just because they don't agree with them or the information may be wrong. There is a polite way to do everything. And I'm massively, because, you know, generally because we both, Matthew and me, were raised on the idea of Southern hospitality and kindness, that there is always a polite way to address things and say stuff, and I still will hold that firm to this day. And if y'all do have a problem with any information that I'm giving out that you do not think is correct, just make sure to politely mention it to me and say, could you please review that? I will make sure to do everything in my power to review it and make sure that the information is correct or not. So with that, I hope we address that really quickly. If we do get anything wrong, just bring it up in a very polite way, of course, and I will make sure to look into it and correct it if it was wrong information. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, real quick, since I did mention Warren's question, and since it would be a very long one to type, I'm going to address it real quick. He said, Matt, one question that's been bothering me, why aren't you working in commercial radio? Your voice is brilliant. I worked in radio for 30 years. Well, Warren, that is really cool that you worked in radio for that long. But anyways, I would say that would definitely take me on a different path than where I'm going now, because that would obviously take up a lot of time. But that would be an interesting career. I don't know anybody that's actually in the radio industry personally. But I actually don't know anything about that industry at all. So that'd be quite interesting to know what your experience was like. But yeah, that would basically take me on a different path. And I have my eyes dead set on going to law school. But thank you for the suggestion also. And hopefully I answered that question pretty good. And I'm just trying to make sure I haven't missed anything.
One thing, Matthew,
I did miss something, actually.
One thing always, Matthew, with those is that I'm always confused as to who they're talking to, because people get you and me confused, and you do have a radio voice, but whenever anyone says Enforcer Matt or Enforcer, I'm like, I wonder who they're really talking to, because I'm like, I wonder if it's me or you, because sometimes they'll say stuff like, Enforcer Matt, you got that wrong, you weren't even talking, or they'll say something to you and say, hey, Enforcer, can you ask Enforcer Matt this question? And I'm always wondering. So I just want to make sure, because just in case, if you were talking to Enforcer Matt, I'm the enforcer. If you were talking to Enforcer Matt, who reads off the questions, please let me know. And I hope that we can eventually clear up that confusion some days, because it always confuses me as to who someone really is talking to, because it's like a gray area. I'm like, are they talking to me or him or who? But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And also, real quick, just to answer, it looks like one of our mods asked a question and said, do y'all play any other instruments? And Watcher, we do play other instruments. I play the drum set, all percussion instruments. It's been a while. I might have gotten a little rusty. But also, I played a very, very basic piano. Very basic. I can play Jingle Bells on there. And the Enforcer plays several different instruments as well.
I play a lot of them, actually. I play the accordion, the balalaika, which is like a Russian 3-string guitar. I play the banjo terribly. I've played the trumpet. I've played the French horn for a very short amount of time. let's see, what else have I played? Let me think. I think those are really the big ones that I played recently, but I haven't really been able to play a lot of them since we moved to Birmingham, because now we're in a neighborhood, and I don't want to feel like I'm bothering our neighbors with the incessant noise of a bagpipe. So with that, I hope that does kind of answer the question a little bit, and thank you so much once again for asking that question. That was a pretty interesting one. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next super chat, so we don't get too sidetracked. Our next one is from, let's see here, Super Bonker 9000 that I called out earlier, who puts in a $20 donation and says, to celebrate my name change from JK to Super Bonker 9000. Oh, and it's JK who did it. So,
Hey!
Good one, JK. He says, I'm donating to the Cream and Sugar Fund. Enforcer, it sounds like you could use some. And Slava Ukraine.
So with that, thank you so much for the support, JK. That is cool to know that you did rename yourself to Super Bunker 9000. And thank you so much once again for the support, and also for helping to add us into your celebration of your name change. I think it's a cool one, and I think it'll stick around for a pretty good bit. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support, JK. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And next up, we have a $20 donation from Vegas Battleborn, who says, Enforcer, first, thanks for what you guys do for us. And second, check out this channel he calls Ryan Hendrickson Tip of the Spear channel. It's a small channel, EOD American in Ukraine.
Well, I thank you for the support, and I will make sure to try and check out that channel off stream. I try and check out channels here and there, and we usually try to get channels on our channel for fundraisers and stuff. But after a while of trying that, I've pretty much given up on it, because there is a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that kind of gets frustrating with getting guest stars on, or the possibility of having them on. But anyways, with that, I do thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does address the comment a little bit. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Praise Adonai, once again, who says, Enforcer, some info about the Kerch Bridge targets. I can tell you that the main arch may not be the correct target. The approach spans are easier to destroy, but easier to repair. The main arch has critical points, but harder to repair. This is the question mark.
This is the question. Let's see. I don't really know a lot about the structural composition of the Kerch Bridge. And now that I've seen that it's pretty clear that they're saying that you have the radio voice, I'm like, man, maybe I need to stop talking in this high-pitched, squealy voice and go back to what I used to do. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully I don't sound monotone, because my natural tone is monotone, so I have to add inflection to my voice. So hopefully it sounds that way.
Because you see, the thing is that y'all may remember way back in the day, I actually used to talk in a more monotone voice, but over time I got badgered for being told that I sounded too mundane, and so then I went from talking like Matthew to where I talk all hyped up and I'm having all this fluctuation and stuff, so that way, quote unquote, it'd be more interesting to listen to. So now I'm like, man, should I maybe just go back to talking monotone? It's a lot easier for me to do that, and I don't know if people like that better or not. I don't know. But anyways, moving on to the bridge. Here's the main spans right here. I honestly would have to say that while the main span, the main arch, may be a little bit more difficult to destroy, maybe you could destroy the span right in front of it or right behind it. I'm not exactly sure. Those are good points with the structural compositions of the bridge. But then again, I'm not really a big structural expert. I hate to say that, Praise Adonai, to say where the best points to hit the bridge would be. In my honest opinion, I would say it would be the spans closest to the deeper parts of the bridge, where it's the deepest in the water, because that would most likely make it fairly difficult, at least in my layman opinion, a decent amount more difficult to repair. So with that, I hope that does answer the question, at least in a way. But then again, the Crimean Bridge is absolutely massive. Just look at the length of this thing. You have a load of targets to pick from on this thing. You could pick any span on the bridge and knock it out, and it would probably be a big problem for them to repair. So I hope that answers the question, and I thank you so much once again for the wonderful support. It helps us out a lot, and it helps our channel to keep on running. And so with that, I hope I answered that question fairly well. If I didn't, let me know, and I'll try and go into a little bit more detail and do maybe a little bit more number crunching. But with that, we are on to the next one.
Oh, and also I want to say that Praise Adonai just said, Matt, I built bridges. So Praise Adonai is a very smart person. He excels in a area that we don't. So in STEM.
Well,
So a very smart engineer type here.
and I also got to say, Praise Adonai must be a really friendly guy. He's out there building bridges all over the place. Apparently, he doesn't burn down a single one, and that's quite the diplomat right there. And I would say that he has a career in politics ahead of him in the future. And so with that, I hope you enjoyed the joke, Praise Adonai. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Now, if that's actually what he meant, the joke will be on me. But anyways, moving on to our next one here, we have a super chat from George A, who puts in a $20 donation and says, Kadirov's TikTok army is not showing much of its beefy guys anymore, but there is a beefy, I'll be totally honest, I'm not sure what that term means. I'm a little hesitant to say it because I'm not sure what it means.
Read it aloud.
He says, but this person is still sharing his wisdom. Who is that dude? And have Ukrainians captured Kadirovites? A guy with the Hamas body armor is gone.
Unfortunately, I don't really know a lot about the Kadirovite Chechens to the present day. Unfortunately, they disappeared off the face of the earth a while ago, and I think that they all joined Razman and Kadyrov back in Grozny again. I just don't really have a lot of information on them. I hate to tell you that because I would love to be able to speak on it a lot more, but they literally disappeared off the face of the earth after the Battle of Lysychansk was won, and that kind of makes me believe that they were quietly moved off the front lines for the large part and back into the reserves or all the way back to Chechnya. And so with that, I hope that does kind of answer the question in a way. I hate to have such a letdown like that because it's not really a good answer, you know, just to say they disappeared, but we haven't got any news on them anyways. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Jay Bagwell, who says, thanks to you both for the thoughtful and entertaining commentary every single night. About a month ago, it was reported that the U.S. sent bomb suits, robots, etc. We have also trained their EOD troops to the latest techniques.
Well, thank you so much for the support, Jay. And also, just for those of y'all who do not know, if I would trust anyone about bomb disposal or anything like that in that field, it would be Jay, because he actually has some prior experience in that. So I thank you so much for providing us with that information, Jay, because I didn't know that they had sent over the bomb disposal suits and such things like that to Ukraine along with robots and also training, because that kind of stuff. Well, actually, I did know about the training, but I don't think I knew about the equipment side of things. But that is indispensable, especially for their bomb disposal units. But unfortunately, it looks like that unit right there did not get any of that equipment, and so it may be still far stretched, even though we sent over a good amount. And hopefully we can finally get a lot of these bomb disposal units, if not all of them, supplied with these kinds of modern techniques, training, and bomb disposal equipment, so that way they don't have to put themselves in the line of danger like we saw them doing, just walking up to a bomb pretty much in normal clothes, picking the thing up and then putting it in a box of sand or cat litter or something. And so that, thank you so much once again, Jay, for the support. Thank you for helping out this channel a lot. You've been incredibly kind. And actually, just in case y'all don't know, Jay and his family are pretty much the only people who watch this channel that have seen me in person. And so I bet all of y'all are like, what? They got to see the Enforcer person? Yes, they did. And actually, the first time they met me, I was actually in the whole Enforcer getup, which is the funniest thing about it. I was literally the first person they found at that reenacting event. But anyways, with that, I hope that does answer the question, well, address the comment fairly well, Jay. And thank you so much for providing that information to us, so that way we can clear up the waters on that a little bit. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, let me recognize a $20 super chat from Paolo Majorani and a $20 super chat from Mick Ranger. They don't leave comments, but thank you very much for your support of the channel, and we appreciate you both. I know that Mick Ranger has been around for a very long time, and Mick, we always appreciate your kind words that you always put in the chat all the time. And Paolo, I'm not sure if you're a new viewer or not. I think you actually might be new. Enforcer, do you recognize the name?
Like Paolo Corradini or just Paolo?
Paolo Majorani.
I don't think we've had Paolo Majorani in here before. I think he may be new. But I don't want to say that just in case. So let us know, Paolo Majori, if you are new or not, because I would like to know. And so with that, thank you to both of you, Paolo and Mick, for y'all's support. It does help us out a great deal. And while y'all didn't add in a comment, it does mean a lot to us that y'all help to support this channel and keep us alive, because this is the only way we keep this thing running. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the question. And also quickly to address Robin M's question, the Enforcer, is that a Comic-Con Enforcer uniform? No. Don't insult me like that. I'm just playing. Don't take that in a bad way. I'm just kidding with you. To explain the Enforcer for a second, at least the logo. And I love when people say, "Oh, he's hiding behind a mask." Also, I hope y'all like today's thumbnail. It's a new format. But anyways, the Enforcer right here, that is actually me. I'm a reenactor, so I do a lot of different historical time periods, and my favorite one is World War I. That's also my favorite period of history, because it was the... Anyways, we're not going through that. So I wear a lot of World War I uniforms. Well, specifically just this one. I put in massive amounts of time, energy, and everything into this uniform to get it perfect. This is exactly what an American soldier would look like in the American Expeditionary Force in the middle of 1918. And I have everything. I have everything from the boots all the way up to the helmet. And so what I did is I was like, I want a cool channel emblem. We got into around 15,000 subscribers at that point. So I threw on my whole uniform, helmet and all, put on the gas mask, because I didn't want people to see my face, because while I'm not an ugly mug, I don't really feel like my face is actually is too much of a winning thing, although we will be doing a face reveal in the future. And so I put on the mask, and then we took a picture like that. Then we got the picture doctored up. We made it a lot darker than it really was when it was taken, and voila, we got the Enforcer logo. So I actually wear this to reenacting events a lot, and when they met me, I wasn't wearing all the stuff on top of it. I was wearing the undershirt, which is like a khaki brown. And they found me. I was just talking in my normal voice like I do on stream, and they were like, "He's the guy. That's it. We found him." So with that, I hope that kind of answers the question about the Enforcer uniform a little bit, because it's not a Comic-Con thing. It's a more of a reenacting thing. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And real quick, to address the poll that has now been up for about 25 minutes, the question I said was, which video format do you prefer for our future Enforcer channel videos? It looks like the popular option is longer and detailed videos. 43% of you said that, 30% said shorter and informative videos, 22% said short and very detailed videos, and only 5% said longer but not too dense videos. So even though longer and detailed videos is the popular option by pure statistic, it looks like the shorter videos with either very detailed or just simply informative aspects to them are also pretty popular. So sadly, the poll doesn't give us as much insight as I thought it would. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I could see longer and detailed videos, but we didn't really clarify what long or short is, because in my opinion, a short video is somewhere about 5 to 8 minutes long, and a long video is around 20 minutes long. So I don't know if we threw those kinds of numbers up, if that would change the figures we got in that poll. But still, I can kind of see where everyone's coming from. I would honestly be into longer videos, probably around a 12 to 15 minute length, that went into a decent amount of detail and were very well edited. I also had a very interesting script and information as well. So with that, I hope that does address that poll in a way. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Psyops, who says, I hear there's a campaign to change Texas' slogan to "We Stink," and Oklahoma is the best state. Now that might be true, but I don't think that bwahaha, I can't. Ha ha ha, Texas stinks. Oklahoma #1. Yes, sir.
Psyops, man, you are slandering Texas. You've got this thing against them. I don't know why, but I love this. It's hilarious how much you, as an Oklahoman, hate the Texans. There's not I don't know. I've never been to Texas, so I don't know if there's mean people out there or not. There are a lot of incredibly kind and nice people out there in the world, but there's also a lot of weird people in the world, and I will never be one to stray away from that. Everything comes in different shades and colors, and good people and mean people are all over. And so, you know, if you see a kind person, I guarantee you there's an equally mean and rude person out there if there's a kind person. But anyways, moving on from that, I like to focus on the good more so than the bad. I do thank you so much for the support, Psyops, and also keeping up that Texas slander. I still love all of our Texas viewers, along with all of our Oklahomans, and I do think that Texans and Oklahomans can coexist peacefully. Or as George Bush would say, the son George Bush, I think man and fish can coexist peacefully. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support, Psyops.
All right, and yes, thank you very much for that support. And moving right along, while I reorganize my spreadsheet, we have a $20 donation from Mick Ranger once more, who says, long overdue, great job.
And thank you so much for the support. I don't know specifically what was long overdue, but I'm glad it's finally came, whatever it was. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment. And thank you so much once again, Mick, for being a longtime channel viewer and helping us to keep on going. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from Volodymyr Yaskulka, who says, God bless Ukraine, and liquidate Putler. And Volodymyr, we're going to hold a fire sale and sell all the Putin we can.
And also, thank you so much, Volodymyr, for the kind words. And also, we will try and do our best to help out in the liquidation of the Russian government, and in the end, Putin as well. I actually have not heard our Morse code message deciphered tonight, and I'm looking forward to when we finally get around to that message, because I think a lot of y'all will find it pretty funny. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we will try our best. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And I'm going to skip down the list to get to that decoding real quick. We have a $10 donation from WF2U, who's figured out the Morse code, along with Mark Hodges, who says, message number 1 is warehouse in Tavrikichanka, Kherson Oblast, and message number 2, tasties, when you're rushing for the bathroom, but there's no time for Putin. Slava Ukraine.
Yes, you got it correct. And the second message, I hope it was good, because I came up with that so fast. It was something I came up with in like 2 minutes, and I hoped it was really good. It's kind of like a play on that joke when you're rushing for food and there's no time for stalling, and I kind of changed it around a little bit, so I hope you liked it. I hope everyone's getting a good laugh out of that one too, and you got them both correct again, WF2U. And thank you to all of our Morse code decoders once again for always deciphering these messages, so that way everyone can enjoy them. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And also, Psyops, your incessant talk about Texas has upset Hoodoo Texas. He says that the stuff about Texas is getting old. He said enough. So, Psyops, you have officially made Hoodoo Texas very angry. So, anyways, moving on to the next super chat, we have a $20 donation from Lucy P, who says, you boys just need to keep doing what you were doing. You were so adorable and smart to boot.
Oh, well, thank you. And we will keep on doing what we're doing. I think that's about the best thing that we do at this point, is just doing what we do. So I thank you so much once again for the support and such kind words. That was really kind of you. And I got to thank you so much for them. And so with that, thank you just so much once again. That was a really nice one. I like that. And with that, we are on to the next one. Before I sit here and just keep on going, oh, that was really nice. Thank you.
All right. And next up, we have an $18 super chat from Junebug72, who says, good evening and happy Friday night to you both, and Slava Ukraine. And also, happy Friday to you as well. And also, sorry for all the confusion.
And also, thank you so much once again for the support. And also, it is Friday, and I hope a lot of y'all are enjoying getting off work, hopefully. Hopefully some of y'all don't have to work the weekends, because I remember that used to be dreadful. But I do thank you so much for the support. And happy Friday, everyone. I forgot to mention that. It's Friday everywhere today. And so with that... that was a stupid comment for me to make. It's Friday everywhere today. But with that, thank you so much once again. And I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have an $18 super chat from Steven Safruk, who says, I am from a town with a significant number of Ukrainian descendants, and I am so thankful that the support for Ukraine is so widespread. Thank you guys so much for creating a channel that unites us and keeps us well informed.
Well, I thank you so much for the kind words, and I'm glad that a lot of people do view this channel incredibly well. It does mean a lot to me, and we try our best to make sure that regardless of what's going on out there, this place can be an enjoyable place to listen to the news and enjoy hearing about what's going on in the war, and not let it burden you too much. Because while this war is important, and it is of course a pretty trying thing, I don't feel like it should make anyone go into depression or anything. And I hope it doesn't. If it does, let us know. But with that, thank you so much to everyone once again for your support. And I thank you so much for the kind words as well. It does mean a lot to us, and I got to thank you once again. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
And up next, we have a $14 super chat from Stefan R., who says, "Thanks for making my decision on what to watch on most evenings very easy. I badly need Monday Night Football to start. Do you know where I will have left my phone next time so I can find it?" Or, wait a minute, hold on. That last part he said, "Do you know where I will have left my phone next time I can't find it?"
Well, to answer that last part, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to know. I don't have a crystal ball, and I do say I don't know everything. That would be something I would not know. But I do thank you so much for enjoying our channel and making it part of your nightly routine. One thing that's funny to me is I think that we've run more live streams at this point than there were episodes of Seinfeld. I don't know. Let me pull up how many Seinfeld episodes there were. How many Seinfeld episodes were there? There were 180 Seinfeld episodes, and so we've officially run just about 4 more live streams than Seinfeld has episodes. So I hope you've been enjoying it. You've pretty much been binge watching like Seinfeld at this point nightly, but instead of it being like a 30-minute long episode, it's like 3 hours long each night. But I still thank you so much for enjoying these streams, and I'm glad that they have become a part of your nightly routine. Unfortunately, I cannot answer the part about where your phone would be. I just would have no idea. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does answer the question. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $12 super chat from Junebug, without the 72 on the end. And Junebug, we've been tossing your name around quite a bit tonight too with the confusion. So apologies to you as well. And Junebug does not leave a comment. But thank you very much for your support. And moving on, we have a $10 super chat from Pavel Semenovics, who says, "Did you ever cover the news about the Polish gangster who infiltrated the International Legion and is basically destroying it with his greed and incompetence? Kyiv Independent did a good piece on it."
I actually did see that story. Unfortunately, I have covered this before. There was no picture or video evidence to back that up. And so while I have talked about it a couple of times during the question segment, and I have read it, and I do believe that it is probably something that's happened, considering that the Kyiv Independent has covered that news, which makes me know for sure that it must be a true story, considering that they are pro-Ukrainian, and it's in their name. They're the Kyiv Independent. And so unfortunately, I haven't been able to cover it due to it not, reaching our rules for validity, which is video and picture evidence for anything that happens with frontline troops. But I have heard about it, and I hope that the government officials in Ukraine look into that issue and have it solved. Because while I do support Ukraine, we always have to make sure that the bad eggs are rooted out. And if this person is out there, does exist, and is doing exactly that, that's a bad egg that needs to be stamped out as quickly as possible. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question. We haven't covered it on stream during our news segment, but I have heard about it, and it's been something I've been seeing if we can find any video or picture evidence of to confirm. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and I hope that answers the question fairly well.
All right, and next up, we have a $10 super chat from Santiago Flores, who says, "On your observation on how the fighting would end, I believe the Ukraine will concentrate in recovering Crimea and stabilize the rest of the fronts and put pressure on the orcs to end the fighting."
That may be what they're trying to do. It's just that I would find it very difficult for them to push down to Crimea without pushing over the open ground towards Melitopol, because while they're going to retake Kherson, they've already destroyed all of the bridge crossings on the Dnipro River. And so unless if they were to go under the process of using exorbitant amounts of resources, time, and effort to construct makeshift bridges over the river to then push to the other side, which would be incredibly difficult and would probably incur high casualty figures, it would make a lot more sense for them to push down from the Zaporizhia area towards Crimea. In that regard, I don't know if they would do that yet. And I don't know how heavily defended the Russians have made the southern front, because as we all know, there's been no advances there for an incredibly long amount of time. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question in a way, but I do think that the Ukrainians, and one of their main goals, will be to retake Crimea, mostly because strategically, even if Ukraine does become a neutral country, that will kick the Black Sea Fleet out of Sevastopol if that's what's agreed upon in a peace treaty. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, and we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for an interesting statement.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Masha C, who says, a guy from Dnipro told me that in Ukraine, they think that either they will win or there's no one to win, meaning everything is destroyed. Which of these options do you think is more likely, and Slava Ukraine?
I think the more likely option of the two is that Ukraine will win. It could be that everything ceases to exist at the end of this war. It could escalate into World War III. But at the same time, I don't think it will. It's been something that we've seen happen in the world for about 70 years at this point. The Cold War went on and has been over, and countries fight through proxy these days, kind of like how, I guess you could say, the Ukraine war kind of is. This isn't really a proxy war because the Russians are directly fighting in it, but still, I don't think it'll end in destruction. I think the Ukrainians will just end up winning, and honestly, because nothing is ever one way or the other, it's not going to be the Ukrainian miracle where they retake all of their lands and Ukrainian soldiers are fighting in Red Square. It's most likely going to end in something that's amicable for both sides. The Ukrainians will most likely agree to become a neutral country. They may recognize the DPR and LPR as legitimate states, and then everything pretty much returns to status quo antebellum, which means that it's the same as it was before the war, in fancy terms. That's kind of what I'm looking at, because we do have to remember, while I do support Ukraine and I think the Russians should be kicked out of the country entirely, we do have to remember that Russia is looking out for its strategic concerns, and with that in mind, it will probably continue to fight until its military ceases to exist, and that may be something that the Ukrainians and the Western world aren't really willing to see through, is to keep a war going that long. But still, you know, that's just my thoughts. That's kind of how it's worked historically. Like, if we look at the Winter War, the Finnish didn't win. You know, they didn't win in the way that they pushed the Russians out and then they marched down to Moscow and took over the Soviet Union. They were able to inflict ungodly amounts of casualties on the Soviets, and then they ended up signing a white peace, giving away a little bit of their land, but they kept their I guess you could say, sovereignty intact, and they still remained neutral long after the war. And I think the Ukraine war, considering it's so similar to the Winter War in multiple ways, may end in that way as well. So with that, I hope that does answer the question, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one, and also a heads up, we do have about 31 super chats left. So up next, we have a $10 donation from Toluvian, who says, compare Russian losses in Ukraine to American losses in Vietnam. Russian people will eventually revolt.
Let's see, Russian losses in Ukraine to Russian losses in Vietnam is what they said, correct?
Let's see. They said, compare Russian losses in Ukraine to American losses in Vietnam.
So the Americans were involved in Vietnam for about 9 to 10 years. Over that course of time, we lost around 55,000 soldiers killed. So far in the Ukraine war, the Russians have lost around 46,500 soldiers killed over the course of 6 months. So in that regard, they are losing troops at a far faster rate than we ever did in the Vietnam War. So I hope that's a direct comparison. I don't even have to Google the stats on that one. I just know them off the top of my head. So I hope that answers the question fairly well. And also, I saw Lucius say Vietnam was 58,000 in 20 years, and I guess you could call that true. But at the same time, the U.S. was really only involved heavily in the Vietnam War from 1965 to around 1973. So really, more like 8 years. And I know that we were there for a long time. I mean, we had military advisors there almost immediately after Dien Bien Phu, and when the French lost that. But at the same time, we didn't actually have soldiers there heavily and involved in fighting until after the Battle of Ai Drang. So with that, I hope that kind of addresses that real quick. That is a good point, Lucius. That is true. But I feel like it is padding the numbers a little bit, in my opinion. But it couldn't be, you know? I mean, like, you know, it's just based off of your opinion. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And I hope that answers the question fairly well, and thank you for the support.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Mike Oxlong, who says, Enforcer, Russia says they are securing their borders with NATO, but with what troops and equipment?
Can you reread that again real quick?
Yes, he says, Enforcer, Russia says they are securing their borders with NATO, but with what troops and equipment?
Could you tell me how you're understanding that question real quick? Because I think I'm having a little bit of a roadblock right there.
Oh, so he says Russia says they are securing their borders with NATO. So, so he's wanting to know what is Russia doing to secure their borders that border any NATO countries. So not just Ukraine. Well, Ukraine is not a NATO country, excuse me, but any countries that are in NATO.
Well, from what I know, they haven't really done anything to strengthen their borders with NATO at all in the Baltic states or with Poland and Lithuania, although those are bordering Belarus, but it is a CSTO member state. So unfortunately, I couldn't really tell you that. I just know that by and large, their claim in Ukraine is that they're trying to remove Nazism from the government, and they haven't really done anything with Western countries in any regard whatsoever. So with that, I hope that does answer the question in a way, and I thank you very much for the support, and I hope that was the answer you were looking for. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Next we have a $10 super chat from Seth, who puts in no comment, it doesn't look like, but thank you very much for your support, and we appreciate you very much. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Trolling Them Softly, who says dibs on the Nightbot. And I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I guess you can have dibs on the Nightbot if you want some.
And I guess you can. I mean, like, no one's stopping anyone from harassing the Nightbot. It's just a machine. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Cliff H, who says, this channel is great. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate Enforcer Matt. Earnest, diligent, unflappable, steady, and dynamic when needed. Thanks, Matt. And Cliff, wow, thank you for the kind words. That is very nice of you to say, and thank you for pointing me out specifically in your super chat. And also, I'm not sure, I think that might be the first time you've supported the channel as well. I may be wrong about that, but I haven't seen your name in a while if that isn't the case. But thank you very much for the support and the kind words also. And moving on, we have a $10 super chat from Psyops, who says, I see London, I see France. Wait, what is Putin doing with Seagal's pants?
That rhyme actually got me there. It took me a second, but that was a pretty good one. So thank you for the support. I like that one a lot. I hope you get a lot of laughs out of the live chat on that one, because that was actually a pretty creative one. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
Yes, indeed, and thank you very much for the support. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Anthony Vendetti, who says, have you been watching since around day 5? One thing that has been driving me crazy, will you please complete the rest of the NATO line on the map that you started drawing about 3 months ago?
Unfortunately, I know what you're talking about, drawing one around Ukraine. I do not want to until they're officially a member, because we've already drawn in Finland and Norway's front line. Well, Finland's front line, really. Norway's already existed beforehand, and they aren't officially NATO members yet either. So with that, I thank you for the support. Unfortunately, I'm going to wait until they're actually NATO members to draw up that line, or else I feel like, someone would come through and they would go, oh, they're not really a member of NATO. Why are you lying to people? Misinformation. You're a propagandist. You're a CIA operative from the NSA. And just for those of y'all to know, I don't work for the CIA. I work for the NSA at Pine Gap. So with that, I hope that answers the question. And we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
What's Pine Gap?
Oh, wait a minute, you forgot that whole thing? Like Alice Springs, Australia, it's in the middle of the country, and then there's Pine Gap, which is right here.
Oh, what is that exactly? A chemical facility?
This is a U.S. military installation that was made to communicate with our satellites over the southeastern Pacific area, and it's so far inland that spy ships can't really pick up on the signals that are being transmitted to it, and also it's so far away from any other settlement in Australia that there's really no way for spies to make it there without raising a lot of suspicions. So that's what Pine Gap is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well then, I don't remember that, if that was gone over. When was that gone over? A few nights ago?
Yeah, I think a couple of nights ago. But honestly, I don't blame you, because we run so much, so many streams in terms of hours that sometimes we just forget about things. So I don't blame Matthew for that at all. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to the next one, we have a $10 donation from MJ, who says, what type of law do y'all want to practice? Criminal, civil, tax, probate, etc. And for me, I definitely want to practice criminal law because that's exciting. That's the high stakes, high drama section of law. I also would like to handle medical malpractice cases as well, but that's a lot more complex than criminal cases generally. And also personal injury, but obviously not in the sleazy way with the cheesy billboards and things like that that a lot of attorneys like to put up. In a classy way, in a professional way. Well, ambulance chasing is a little bit different. That's actually unethical. There's nothing unethical about putting up a cheesy billboard, but it certainly doesn't look good.
It's skeezy. Like
Yes,
if it's skeezy, I just throw it under the same category to me. But if I was to practice law, I would do a little bit of everything. But one thing I would like to do, especially, although I feel like this will require a decent amount of medical expertise, is medical malpractice. Because surprisingly enough, the number of people that are killed in the United States by medical malpractice is one of the highest causes of death here in the U.S. How many people are killed by medical malpractice in the U.S.? Not to scare anyone or anything, but 251,000 deaths annually occur in the United States from medical malpractice. So when you look at that figure, you got to say, wow, that's kind of jacked up. And I know that doctors are put under a large workload, but that never explains screwing up to the point where you kill someone. And so that's something that I would like to do in the future when I become an attorney, is maybe try and sue doctors who screw up so badly that they end up killing off patients, which is just, messed up. So with that, I hope that kind of answers the question a little bit, but honestly, really just a little bit of everything. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
And real quick, KPX 1138. I'm not going to repeat what you said in the live chat just for obvious reasons, but yeah, you know who I'm talking about. But anyways, moving on.
Who was it?
Well, I don't want to say it out loud because it's a sizable law firm here in the state, so I'm going to avoid saying it out loud, just to play it safe.
What letter does it start with?
Starts with an A.
Oh, okay, I know who it is. All right, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Trolling Them Softly, who says, you two give me hope for the next generation. And thank you very much for that high praise. And yeah, it's really tough touching on this subject because you can kind of get political, but I'm not going to get political. But the next generation coming up needs some help, I think. I'm not trying to put ourselves on a pedestal or anything, but I'm not sure what's happening with the next generation coming up.
Well, I've got to be honest with you. I don't have to get political to answer this one. I do thank you so much for the kindness of saying that you give hope for the next generation. And each generation always looks at the next upcoming one with a lot of skepticism as to whether they'll actually do good or not. These thoughts have always existed. Historically, they've always been around. Whenever the older generations look at the younger ones, they go, "Oh my God, we are so screwed." And sometimes they're right, because sometimes we do kind of get screwed over by certain generations. But one thing I can say about mine is that I've noticed, and this isn't getting political or anything. Once again, this is a critique on both sides, which is within my no politics rule of picking a side. I've noticed that a lot of people in my generation have gotten heavily politicized to the point that, much like most generations at this point, really no generation is without fault in this category, they blindly overlook common sense and logic for whatever side they pick. I feel like there's far too much personality being involved in things these days. Like, oh, you are a flubberdub, so you have to do everything that a flubberdub does, and whatever they do, you're just for, even if it goes against who you are and what you do. I'm a flubberdub, and flubberdubs like doing weeble wobbles, so I've got to do weeble wobbles, although weeble wobbles are actually hurt me. And that's almost what everyone's like these days. And I know I'm using stupid terms. That's because I don't want to use anything actually in the political sphere. But honestly, at this point, it's stupid because I see people on one side saying one thing in my generation and people on one side saying the other, and common sense and logic never enters into any of these pictures. They're so outlandish, and then people will sit there and go, you know, I'm an unbiased person. I look at things logically, and I think that aliens came down from the sky and built the pyramids. And I'm like, you just lost me, man. Like, that's not even political, but stuff like that, you're like, you lost me. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. So with that, I hope that does answer the question. Thank you so much once again for the high regards as well. And also, Jimmy Rogers, I'm a flubberdub, and I'm going to sit here and talk about the flubberdubs all I want. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and also just playing around with you, Jimmy. I know you're just joking. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Richard Daniel Jr., who says, Enforcer Matt and the Enforcer, how in the world do y'all keep up with the chats and the news? Maybe because I'm old. 46, that's not really old. But anyways, he says, when I try to read the chats, I miss so much. Getting old sucks. Haha. And Richard, I will say that I actually have a hard time keeping up with the chat sometimes too. And that's when I say, I'm sorry if I miss your comments, but I'm a little distracted because I'm trying to do this other thing over here. Because if you miss reading the live chat for like a split second while you're doing my job, you'll literally get behind on everything, and it screws everything up. So it's a fine balance between reading the live chat, doing the spreadsheet, the polls, etc. But yeah, it's a lot to juggle.
And also, I do thank you for the support, Richard. And to take over there real quick, it is hard to keep up with a live chat. It's very hard for Matthew and me to do that. And considering that a lot of my time, my eyes are focused right here on this screen that I'm flipping around, I hardly ever get to look at the live chat. So it's really all up to Matthew sometimes to be able to catch things and look at stuff in there. And I got to give him a huge amount of credit, because even for Matthew at 21 years old, it is a hard job to keep up with that live chat. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question away. And thank you so much once again, Richard, for supporting this channel and helping us to keep on running. And also, I saw something in the chat about the generations and voting. I have to say this about voting, not getting political. I'm just saying this. When people vote, I wish that people would vote and actually know what they're voting for. Because in some states, you can vote for the railroad commissioner, if y'all don't know. And you can actually vote, I believe the last time I went to vote, you could vote for our local railroad commissioner. I have no idea why people who are not involved in the railroad would vote for the railroad commissioner, because they have no idea what their policy points are or what they're doing as railroad commissioner. They just vote off of their ticket line, you know, and that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care what party affiliation you're with, but if you don't know anything about a specific category, I'm not saying you have to be an expert and work for CSX or something to vote for the railroad commissioner, but at the same time, if you don't really know a lot about something, just have a little bit of humility. Say, you know what? I don't really know a lot about the railroad commissioner. I don't know what they do. I'm just going to not vote. Let someone else vote for them. So that way the railroad commissioner will be doing what's best for our locality and what the railroad needs done. You know, that's just kind of on one thing. You know, if you didn't really do a lot of research on, like, say, a representative or a senator or the presidential candidates, and an election comes around and you don't really know much about them, honestly, I would just suggest not voting. If you're going to vote because you saw a commercial run by a political party telling you that they're good and the other guy's poo-poo pee-pee, please don't go vote. I mean, you know, please do some research, you know, about who you're voting for. I don't care who it is in the end. Just make sure you're actually informed and have a good idea about what the other side's saying, what the sides you're supporting saying, and then make a decision and go vote for them. That's because I feel like the voter bases these days are just full of people who just vote for so-and-so because they're part of that team, and regardless whether it makes sense or not, they're just gonna go for them 100%. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And once again, some people are saying that is something like, I've seen some people trying to say that that's political. That's not political. That's a critique on modern American culture and society, pretty much. So with that, we're on to the next one.
And moving on to the next one, we have a super chat from Super Bonker 9000 once again, who puts in a $10 donation and says, why did Oklahoma change their field from grass to artificial turf? Answer, to keep the Sooners cheerleaders from grazing the field at halftime.
What?
I don't know. I started getting worried when I read it halfway through. I wasn't sure what he meant.
You're like, well, I thank you for the support. Unfortunately, I don't know what that means, but I do thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
And up next, we have a $10 donation from Sick Lid, who says, it's very dangerous not to totally defeat your enemy. They will always lie and say they weren't defeated and will attack at a later date.
I would agree with that, but total victory, total defeat and total victory as a concept, I honestly think that the world ought to backtrack off of that a pretty good bit, because sometimes you can't win, especially with a country like Russia, because if you try and go for a total victory, they can go for total annihilation and nuke you, and then it ends up with mutually assured destruction where they're nuked, you're nuked, no one won. And I do see what you're saying. That's a pretty good point. But with a country like Russia, the best thing you could do is make them lose the war and then just leave them alone. That's pretty much how we had to do every single war that we kind of got involved in, that the Russians were in during the Cold War, was, pretty much by proxy in Afghanistan and other areas around the world. And so I hope that kind of answers the question in a way. I do get what you're saying. It is a true point. But at the same time, it's just not possible with Russia due to the fact that they're a nuclear power. And so with that, we are on to the next one. I hope that answers the question fairly well.
All right. And next up, we do have a super chat from Merwin, who puts in a $10 donation and says, thanks, guys. I've watched you nightly since nearly the beginning, and I appreciate all you both do. I'm curious, what's the age difference between you guys? Well, I'll say I'm 22 years old, and the Enforcer is either 20 or 21. I'm not sure.
I'm 20. And I feel good now that Matthew doesn't know my age because I accidentally said he was 21 earlier on stream, and he's actually 22. So let's say we don't both.
The whole 22.
Yeah, we both don't know each other's ages. We're 18 months apart. So with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Trolling Them Softly, once again, who says, as one old soul to another, keep doing what you're doing.
And thank you so much once again for the support, and I'm glad that you do enjoy the stream and you want us to keep on going. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much for the kind words. And with that, we are on to the next one. Also, real quick, I would like to say this to a certain viewer. I believe they were addressing me. Ezo448 said, you're contradicting your message. My rule is no politics. That means that I don't pick a side. That does not mean that I cannot comment and critique on it. And I'd also like to make this clear real quick. When I make the rules, I define the rules. I'm kind of like the Supreme Court in that way. There's a law out there, and I kind of interpret how it's followed. So while you may think that it's breaking the political rule, I have it clearly defined in my head about what is political and what isn't. And picking a side is incredibly political, and making an equal critique about the entire political system is not political. So I hope that kind of addresses that in a way, because that's not going against our message or our image or anything like that. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Squamous Amos, who says, I bet you could find a picture of Putin on a tank.
I bet we could, but sadly, I can't. I haven't found one yet, but we will be looking for it. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the question. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 donation from Super Creech, who says, hi all, Enforcer, how do you think they will take out the barge bridge down south? Woot, keep it rockin'.
And thank you so much for the support. I'm glad that you do enjoy our channel and want us to keep this thing on rocking. And also, to answer your question, I think they'll be taking out the Kerch Bridge most likely with ROMs or Grims, if they have enough of them, or the ATACMS missiles, because I have a fairly decent assumption that they are there. So with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you so much once again for the support. It does help us out a lot. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, I just want to ask a quick question, because we do have a few more super chats to go. But is 22 considered old? Because I guess it's depending on your perspective if it's considered old or not. Like for example, Richard thought that being 46 was old, but I don't think that's old. And it looks like some people think that 22 is still like a kid. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting to know people's perspective on that. But anyways, up next we have a $5 super chat from Eyes Emoji, who says, Slava Ukraine.
And also, Slava Ukraini. And thank you so much for the support. I hope you enjoyed my little Zelensky Slava Ukraini. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from NOYDB, who says, a fun fact, since you like camo, Canadian Disruptive Pattern, CADPAT, is the computer-generated digital camouflage pattern used operationally in 1997. I'll let you guess, is it the inspiration for MARPAT? And I love all the abbreviations.
Goodness me, well, if we look at the camouflage patterns up here, I don't think these work well. They don't really cover enough of the body. But moving on down into the actual camo itself, let's take a look at this camo, and let's see if we like it. I like it. I actually think it's really good. It blends in with the leaves and the kind of the foliage behind the guy. Although that's not really what camouflage is for specifically. It's more to break up your silhouette, which I think is something that a lot of people don't realize. And of course, it has to kind of blend in with the surroundings to do that. But it's more so to make sure that they don't really have a good idea of what you're doing, whether you're prone, crouched, standing, moving, or what. But anyways, moving on from that, I do like that camouflage pattern. And also, what did he say it may be or may not be the inspiration for?
MARPAT.
MARPAT. Camo. And we have some more bikini-clad women. And moving on down here, we can see the MARPAT camo. Hang on. Interesting. Its design and concept are based on the Canadian CADPAT pattern. Neat! That's cool to know that the U.S. Marines have taken a page out of the Canadian camouflage book. That's pretty neat. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support, and I thank you for pointing that out. I actually did not know that there was a bit of an intersection in between the U.S. Marines camo and the Canadian camo as well. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
All right, and it appears that most of you believe that 22 is very, very young. So let's see. Some people were saying 22 was a great year, LMAO, like we're talking about wine here or something. But anyways, moving on, so I don't get too sidetracked. We have a $5 super chat from Laszlo Uriel, who says, "Here's $5 because I was wrong about it being the same speech from a couple days back. Here I'm Slava." And Laszlo, you didn't have to throw in a super chat over that.
Yeah, Laszlo, it's no big deal. You don't have to do that. You know, I mean, it was a brand new speech. That is true, but don't feel bad about it. One thing I got to say to folks is never beat yourselves up over getting something wrong. You got it wrong. It's no big deal. I'm not going to beat you over the head over it or make you feel like an idiot. I mean, I get stuff wrong and I correct myself, and you know, and that's just the way of life. And so don't worry about it. You didn't even have to throw that in. It was no big deal. And honestly, while it was a brand new speech, it was still good to challenge it, because if you think it is old, it's worth looking into to see if it is old or not. So with that, I hope that does answer the question, Laszlo, and thank you so much for the support. And don't feel bad at all. I mean, it's a harmless mistake. The only thing you said is I think it's you know, not new. I think it's old, and that was it. It didn't really do anything, didn't harm anyone. So with that, I hope that does answer the question, and thank you so much once again, Laszlo, for the support, and don't worry about it one bit. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, who says, "Don't give up on your college effort. A bit late today, but what happened so far?" And quite a bit happened.
Quite a lot happened. I mean, there was a lot of news. Sadly, I'd have to recommend for you to rewind at this point, because we are so far into the stream. But with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Richie MC, who says, "I'm sure this will be on tomorrow's stream. On Friday, that Ukrainian troops had successfully attacked the Russian base set up in a hotel in the occupied city of Kadivka. KIA 200 Russian paratroopers."
Kadivka. I would not doubt it at all. And we will be looking into that and trying to get any video or picture evidence we can find over it, because that's not anything I would doubt. We already know that the Stadion Pobiedi was hit, where the Wagner group was stationed, and it killed a lot of them. And so I would not doubt it that it happened somewhere else in the city and got a score more. So with that, I thank you so much for the support. We will be looking into that news. That's actually day 185 news, because when this stream goes live at 10 p.m. Eastern time, that is literally the start of the very first hour of the war on that day. So like when we were on August 24th at 10 p.m., that would have been hour 1 of the war 180 days ago at that point. So with that, I hope that does answer the comment, and that will probably be in tomorrow's news, if we can find any video or picture evidence for it. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Tim F., who says, found you a detailed list of support from Germany after yesterday. Just search for German government weapons deliveries if you're interested.
And also, we shall pull that up. German government weapons deliveries. Germany never gave fixed date on weapons delivery, says so-and-so. Says government spokesperson. Oh, look at those beautiful leopards. Aren't they just smacking? These leopards are minging. Anyways, moving on from that. I was on June 8th. Unfortunately, it looks like we can't get an answer pulling that up right now. But I do thank you for the support, and we will try that again sometime around and see if we can find some numbers on that. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question. Thank you so much once again for the support. And I can see you are from Europe, and I'm assuming you are from Germany and trying to get them credit. And at this point, I would say that they have sent a pretty decent bit. Panzerhaubitzes, Gepards, amongst many others. And so thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Billy Hayes, who says, check out the Toyota dealership in Gibraltar for new technicals.
Toyota dealership in Gibraltar. Also, by the way, real quick thing about Gibraltar. Matthew plays Microsoft Flight Simulator on his Xbox, and he actually lands jets, 737s and such, at the Gibraltar airport because it's fun.
Wait a minute. Is that plane going the opposite direction? Am I landing the wrong way when I land on there?
I think they actually bring in the aircraft depending on what's best wind-wise and weather-wise. Because when you see the arrows pointing in this way towards the runway on this end, and also the arrows pointing the other way on the other end of the runway.
Oh.
So I think it just depends on the weather. Also, an interesting fact, Matthew, that you may not know, the numbers on a runway, I actually learned this on a video from CGP Grey, the numbers on a runway are actually based off of its, I guess you could say, its cardinal direction. So this means it's like a bearing 060. In this direction, I believe it would be something like 327, but then that's just cut down to 27. And if we zoom out, I wonder if, yeah, it kind of looks like it would be at 060. Then again, this is a flat map of the Earth.
Unfortunately, I just also want to know, who thought it was a good idea to put a road through the runway?
Well, that was the only way you're going to get from one end of Gibraltar to the other. But one thing I've always wondered is, why didn't they just dig a tunnel under the runway? But probably because the water table's so low through there, and it'd be impossible. Well, then again, they built the Lincoln Tunnel in New York. I don't know. It's kind of weird like that. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
That is really weird.
It really is. Calypso. I just had this Calypso. It is minging. Anyways, moving on from that, let's pull up the Toyota dealership here. Toyota Gibraltar.
Oh, and unfortunately, I just realized we have about 12 more super chats left, so quite a few left.
Well, we're going to have to move on from that. Sadly, we won't be able to look at the Toyota dealership, but we will try and remember that and look at it off stream. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I sadly couldn't get around to that, but we will try off stream. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And also, Jimmy Rogers, how many times have I ended up in the water on Flight Simulator? Actually, 0. I'm actually pretty decent at that game, believe it or not. But surprisingly, I didn't know I would be. It looked difficult. But anyways, moving on, we have a $5 super chat from Yukari Yakumo, who says, longer, detailed videos would be great. Some defense channels get hundreds of thousands of views with hour-long military budget vids.
And I do thank you for the support, and I have seen that, and that's something I've always wanted to look into doing. It's just that when you get into videos that long, it takes so long to produce them, especially since I'm only one person, and I've had a very hard time trying to get anyone to work on that as an independent contractor. So sadly, I don't know if that would be possible, but I am looking at longer, more detailed videos. I think a lot of people would find that interesting. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question in a fairly good way. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support. Also, Larry just corrected me. It's not 060, it's actually 90. And thank you for correcting that, because I did notice it was more at 90 degrees than 60. But with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and next up we have a $5 super chat from Jason Hubbard, who says people think they can be disrespectful because they feel safe behind the internet. They wouldn't talk to people like that face to face. And it sounds like Jason's ready to throw down.
Jason's ready to kill. And I'd have to agree. But honestly, though, at the same time, I've had a lot of people be rude to me in person. And the way I act on stream is the way I act in person. I act very polite to everyone. And I remember working at Publix. There was this guy who came through the line, and I was just, I don't read newspapers. Like, I read news over the phone. So this guy asked, "Where's yesterday's paper?" And I said, I'm not really sure, sir, but I know that you can find the today's newspapers over there. I said, "Yesterday's paper, where is it?" And I was like, dang, man. I was like, calm down. I was like, first off, it's like, if you want to live in the past, you already dressed like it. Like, anyways, getting up beyond all that, people do act rude in person too. And I feel like people these days feel like they can be rude, and not to sound violent or anything, because no one smacks them in the mouth anymore when they're rude. You've always got the protection of the cops. If you ever get punched by someone for being rude, you can call the cops and they can get arrested for assault or battery. Honestly, I feel like there ought to be repercussions to mouthing off at someone, and if you did punch someone in the mouth for that, for just being a rude butthole to you and then doubling down on it, the cops ought to come up and say, well, you shouldn't have been rude to him, and maybe they wouldn't have popped you in the mouth. I don't know. Not to be rude or anything, not to act like I'm a tough guy or anything, but honestly, there's only so much disrespect a person should tolerate, that's just downright rude to him before you ought to pop him in the mouth. That's just me, though. But with that, we're on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support. And I do agree with you entirely.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Anders Peterson, who says cheers.
And also, cheers to you too, and thank you so much once again for the support, and thank you for enjoying this channel. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from OCB, who says outside coffee and pizza, which is a given, what's both of you guys' favorite food and drink weaknesses? And to answer, while I stuttered my way through that question really badly, my drink weaknesses, I would say there's this Tropicana drink. It's called strawberry peach something. It's some kind of drink like that that's really good. And also for the other food item, I would probably say those little Jimmy Dean breakfast croissants with sausage and egg and stuff in it.
Honestly, for me, I love watermelon juice. I think it's delicious. And as a food, I would say sushi's delicious. I love sushi. It's really good. I think it's one of the best things that that Japanese culture has provided to the United States through its cuisine. It's delicious. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. So with that, kind of got my own. I kind of got the normal palate, I guess you could say, of a kid my age these days. Pizza and sushi. Those are really good stuff. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question. And only really anywhere in the world, but only in America back in the day could you have had pizza from Italy and sushi from Japan at the same time. Although sushi didn't catch on until just the previous few decades. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again. I hope that allows you to get a better idea of our palate.
All right. And now that you have a better idea of our palate, we're going to move on to our next super chat question, which is from Richard Daniel Jr., who says, bots are now attacking me on Discord, but I'll take care of them. And Richard, I'm not sure what you mean by you're going to take care of them, but please be careful over there.
Richard says, bots are attacking me on Discord, but I'll take care of them. But I'm thanking
Richard's going to throw down and go even further.
But I thank you for the support, Richard. And if they are attacking you on Discord, just make sure to mute them or block them. And also, if you could give the names of those bots to the moderators, so that way they can make sure to get them off the Discord, we would also be heavily appreciative about that as well. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, Richard. And I hope that you do. That you do report their names to the moderators, because if there are bots like that in our server that are DMing people, we would like to know. And also that's a PSA to everyone on the Discord. If you have anyone reaching out to you and saying some crazy stuff to you about the channel or anything like that, report them, because they may be the mods, because I've actually found out they still hate me to this day, and that's like their whole entire life at this point, is hating on me and finding ways to make other people hate me. So if you ever get messages like that on Discord, make sure to add a moderator with a screenshot of what they're saying, so that way we can get them off and wait until they make another account tomorrow. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again, Richard, and I hope that does address how to deal with it the best way you can. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a super chat from NOYDB, who puts in a $5 donation and says, if I'm still around when you read this, I will post the real message in the live chat.
And I will be trying to look around for that message when I can. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And did we see that message, Matthew?
Let's see. Here's another one from NOYDB, who puts in a $2 donation this time and says, personal favorite, search Volga sedan turned into machine gun toting tactical vehicle by Ukrainian forces.
Volga, what was it called again?
Volga sedan turned into machine gun toting tactical vehicle by Ukrainian forces.
Machine gun. Hopefully we can find it with this. Ukraine.
There it is, on the drive.
The drive. Oh my god.
Oh boy.
That's a beater right there. Goodness me. Wow, that's cool. But goodness. That's a big machine gun though. I think that's bigger than a 50 cal, like an M2.
Look at that like 1950s like light bar they had on top of that thing.
Yeah,
it's like from Barney Fife's era.
Yeah, let's say something from the 70s. Wait a minute, that's not even that's Iraq. That's not even Ukraine.
Yeah, that looks like maybe in Mexico or something.
No,
it's Iraq.
Iraq Police Dodge Ram.
Well, there's the answer.
When you're putting down ISIS, the best thing to use is the Dodge Ram. The towing power's exquisite. The hauling power's all there, and you're just a country boy taking out the terrorists. But with that, we are on to the next one, and I hope you enjoyed us taking a quick look at that at this crazy creation here, because that's nuts. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $20 donation from DC Williams, who says, "Man, you all ought to try 70. Do law, Matt. Do law." And thank you very much, DC Williams, for the support. And also, unless something derails my plans, I do plan on doing the law. Hopefully, I'll be doing that here in the next maybe 4 or 5 years, if I'm lucky. But anyways, thank you for the support very much, DC, and thanks for being around for a very long time. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Kevin Scott 76, who says, continuing my grandpa's World War II story, I about said WW2. He said, after Nordhausen, Captain Lay was posted at Artheim. He and another captain scouting behind enemy lines captured 6 Germans.
Oh, that's really cool. Your granddad had a pretty interesting story throughout World War II. And I gotta say, thank you so much once again for the support, Kevin Scott76. And thank you so much for sharing his story with us again, because it's always interesting to hear little bits and pieces of his life. He sounded like a very interesting person. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $3 super chat from Quantum Fighter, who says, got my health benefits today. Here's some of it for you, you guys in the LSA. So keep it up. Greetings from Malmo, SWE, GMAP it. It's bleak. Slava, Ukraine.
Malmo, Sweden. I know this place like the back of my hand. Malmo. Where to go? You're kidding me. Like, as soon as I go looking for it, I can't find it. I know where it is, though.
Malmo?
God, it's right there. I knew it. I knew it was in the south of Sweden, and I bet y'all saw me move down here. And I moved, like, right here where it was just out of view. But here's Malmo, Sweden. And let's take a look. He said it was bleak. I don't believe you. Man, you're kidding on us or something. You're like playing a trick or something, because this doesn't look bleak. This looks nice. If you're looking for a fine city to take a nice rest and relax in, then you need to go to Malmo. I actually saw that a lot of people like that one in the chat. Everyone's like, wow, that was a pretty good one. Quality Hotel The Mill. What hotel are you staying in? I'm staying in the Mill. But yeah, it looks like a nice place, actually. Not too bleak. It looks good. A Quality Hotel. We have that brand here in the United States, actually. And also, interestingly enough, it has a bridge that connects it to the finest dip that you can get in the United States, Copenhagen. And so that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support. Also, the kind words, and also letting us take a look at your hometown of Malmo. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, who says, the best remedy against rudeness is well-placed fist between shoulder blades. Also, who do you have to sleep with to get a spanner? Uh-oh.
I don't know who you'd have to sleep with to get a spanner, but one thing I would have to say is that while I'm not advocating, of course, let me make this clear, I'm not advocating that if you disagree with someone and they're being slightly annoying to you, that you just go and rock them or something. All I'm saying is that...
Or sock them.
Yeah, rock them, sock them, knock them around a little, like, I'm not saying do that off the bat. I'm saying that if someone is rude to you, you know what I mean, just outright rude to you, treating you like you're not even a person, you say, hey, wait a minute, can you calm down for a minute, just act like a normal person? No, I'm going to treat you how I want. That's when you ought to just rock them. Because there's a certain kind of politeness you ought to have with people, and to sit there and disrespect someone like that and expect not to be punched for it, that's just not right. It's just not. So with that, I hope that does address that, and I do agree with you a lot. And thank you so much, Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, for agreeing with me, because I do think that folks ought to be scared of treating people rude, because there ought to be some kind of repercussions to it rather than just nothing. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and next up we have a $5 super chat from NOYDB, who says, okay, watch the chat, watch this time, watch, you can look at it offline if you want.
I don't know what that
I'm
means.
not sure where I was going with that tone either, but NOYDB, I don't know what that means, but I'm always watching the chat, so I don't have an option on that front. But anyways, thank you very much for the support, and we are moving on to the next one, which is from Andrew Reese, who puts in a $2 donation and says, smiley face emoji. So thank you very much for the smiley face, and we put a smiley face back to you. And moving on, we have a $2 donation from Soul Eater, who says, enjoy the 2-minute noodles, the breakfast of students. And I can't remember the name. It's Cup O Noodle or something like that. I think that's the one we get whenever we get it.
Marusian ramen.
Oh yes, that's it. Ramyeon. I forgot.
So if you ever watch Squid Game and you watch the main character, he'll sit there, Ramyeon. He lives in, where do you live? He lived in like Songmyeon-dong, didn't he?
Yes, I think so. And somebody was the pride of the SNU, but I can't remember his name.
Let's see, that was, his name is like right on the tip of my tongue. I forgot his name. That was a really great show. I mean, like, it took that guy years to finally get the green light to produce that show. Great one, all around. And I think it was a great introduction of South Korean film into the world, in a way. It was incredibly good. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And the name of the guy who was the pride of the SNU was Sang-woo.
Oh, yeah, Sang-woo, yeah.
Yeah, Sang-woo. And then it was Jihan was the main guy, and then you had
the old man.
The old man, yeah, Il-nam. I'm not gonna spoil the show in case somebody's watched it.
Wait a minute, let me do this. Il-nam.
Yeah, that's right. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat, we have a $2 donation from Mr. Lunchtime, who says a couple of bucks for some coffee from Stars Coffee, and we actually could get at least a year's worth of supply with $2 of American money when we convert it to rubles at Stars Coffee.
And also, thank you so much for the support, and we will try and get some coffee from an American vendor because we aren't into that commie stuff. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. We will make sure to go and get some coffee with the Coffee Fund money, and thank you so much once again for helping us to keep this channel alive. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $2 donation from Kevin Hansen, who says Coffee Fund. And Kevin, thank you very much for contributing to the Coffee Fund once again. And up next, we have a $2 donation from Jack Sparrow, who says, I think you missed my previous donation, or I missed it. And Jack, I have to say tonight, I've been watching the live chat extremely closely. So I doubt highly that I missed it, but thank you very much for the support, and we appreciate you very much. And up next, we have a $2 donation from Trolling Them Softly, who says, "What do you get on your pizza?" And I try to get everything on my pizza. I say, let's do supreme.
I usually enjoy a good pepperoni pizza. That's a very simple flavor. And I also love, I really love all kinds of pizza, honestly. I could eat Hawaiian, I could eat Mediterranean, I could eat Philly cheesesteak pizza. Any kind of pizza you put in front of me, I'll generally be okay with. So honestly, whatever you want to put on top of my pizza, whatever combinations, what you're leaving out, doesn't matter to me. I'll eat it probably and enjoy it too. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Captain Jack Sparrow. And I hope that answers the question fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $1 super chat from Aloysius, who says, "When do you think they will take Izium? September. Great job, guys."
I think they will retake Izium. On my map, they're close to it, but I think my map may be a little bit off. But I would have to say probably within the next 4 months at the soonest, honestly. So with that, I hope that does address the comment in a way, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have now reached our final super chat of the night, and this is an extremely long stream. It's now 1:38 in Eastern Time. I'm probably saying that wrong, Eastern Standard Time or something like that. But anyways, we have a $1 super chat from Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, who says, "I totally agree with you on that voting thing."
And I thank you so much for agreeing with me on that voting thing, because I feel like it should be a pretty reasonable statement. And so with that, we're now going to, well, we have to address that live chat.
We have one more super chat, and this time is from Psyops, who puts in a $10 donation and says, "Enforcer Matt, could you let the Texas know I'm calling a truce? I didn't realize they were hurting right now with flooding. Much love to my friends in Oklahoma sending help. Hope y'all are safe." And to be honest, I did not know Texas was having a flooding issue, so that's quite interesting.
I didn't know that either, and honestly, I found the jokes to be funny. And if you wanted to keep them going, I'm fine with that, because it's all in good fun. But with that, I do thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we're now going to, and due to time reasons, I hope everyone can understand tonight, because this is probably going to be the longest stream we've ever run. But we're now going to move on to the live chats. And we're going to answer NOYDBs real quick. And just real quick to cut down on our time. Yes, I will check out that video on your channel, NOYBD, when I can off stream. And so with that, thank you once again for the support. And we're now going to answer 3 questions from the live chat. They're going to have to be really quick. And then we're going to be hopping off for the night. I'm sorry about that, everyone. But it's an incredibly long stream tonight. It's gone on 3 hours and 40 minutes already. And so with that, on to the first one.
And the first one is from Sittin' and Thinkin', who says, "Are the bridge repair crews fair game, even if civilian?"
I hate to say it, but yeah, I mean, while they are a civilian, they are part of I guess you could say, repairing strategic infrastructure, and so, that kind of is included, especially if they're being used for military activities. If you don't want civilians to get killed, you ought to not be using them for military activities. That's an unfortunate truth. I hate to say that. Because if the Ukrainians were using civilians to repair a bridge, and then the Russians hit the bridge and took out that crew, that would be one of the few times I would have to say, well, that's kind of what happens in war. So with that, I hope that answers the question, and we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from, let's see here, just looking through to find a really, really good one. From Barrett Jex, who says, "Do you think Putin's statement regarding nuclear return, giving into fact Putin is tricky with words, that his true intention is to use power plant as weapon instead of him launching actual nukes?"
I think he would most likely use the nuclear power plant as a weapon, more so for his power generating abilities than its ability to spread radiation, because through holding Ukraine's power grid hostage, they could probably leverage the situation fairly well. And so with that, I hope that answers the question. I just saw we had another super chat come in, and so let's address that one real quick, and then we're going to move on to the final live chat question of the night.
All right, and this one is from Rob Iceman. Or, no, actually Rob ICX Man, not Iceman. He puts in a $50 donation and says, I had to numb, slice, clean, and stitch an infection from a sting, hence late. Hurts, lol. Nuclear reactor can supply other reactors with power without the requirement of diesels. Also, most nuclear PWR systems have a hidden battery power supply, JIC.
And thank you so much for clarifying that, Rob. I did not know that the PWRs had a hidden battery power supply. I guess that's not the same with the BWR. And now I'm going all nerd mode. Matthew's like, what the hell are these? And it would take a million hours to explain. We've run out of time at this point. But I do thank you for the support and letting us know that, because I honestly thought that once a nuclear power plant had been taken completely off the grid, those those reactors were entirely without control unless if they had some kind of electrical input somewhere through emergency generators. So with that, thank you so much for the support, Rob, and also clearing up a little bit more information about how nuclear reactors work. Now, one question I would have is, do graphite reactors like the ones at Enerhodar work off of a similar principle as the American boiling water reactors and pressurized water reactors do? There's a couple of other variants, I believe, that operate in the United States, but at that point, they're very few and far in between. I think the two mainstream ones are PWRs, which make up most of our nuclear system, and then a couple of BWRs, which are, I believe, usually made by General Electric. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment, and thank you so much once again for the support, Rob. And with that, we gotta address Richards, and then hopefully get to the last live chat of the night.
All right, so Richard puts in a $5 donation and says, from what I can tell, Meep in the Discord is the bot that's driving me crazy, along with several other good people. And Richard, actually, I think Meep is our in-house, like, utility bot or something like that. I don't know what you call it. A utility bot, a good bot. It's not a bad bot, though. It's not a Russian bot.
It's a nice
hopefully
bot.
not. Yeah, I like that bot.
Yeah.
Meep's a good bot. So, Meep, boop, boop. It's running around. Hopefully, it's not messing with you too bad, but we'll go in there and check out Meep and see what's going on. And he said also several good people.
Oh, well, we'll look into it and try to see about that. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. And also, before we get to that final live chat of the night, Robin M asked, Fukushima didn't have pressurized water reactors, did it? They did not. They actually had General Electric boiling water reactors, I believe, with a Mark II containment. So with that, I hope that answers your question. I may be wrong about the containment, structure. I do know that they're General Electric boiling water reactors. But with that, we're on to the final question of the night. So who is the lucky last person who threw in that lucky last question of the night?
And excuse me, my mind is starting to go. But anyways, the question is from Heather Fitzgibbon, who says, why is Lend-Lease taking so long?
It may be taking so long because of logistic backlog, and it may also be because while we could send a lot of stuff over, the Ukrainians may not have enough manpower or expertise to be able to field those units well. And so there could be problems on that end. We're not entirely sure why, though, but I think those would be the two most likely issues as to why the supplies are heading over slowly. And so with that, we have now reached the end of tonight's stream, but let me address Richie MC's $2 super chat where he said, chat, let's get a 4-hour stream. And while that is a nice goal, I sadly don't think that we can hang on any longer. I know that Matthew's dead right now, and I am getting to that point too. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, everyone, and I hope we've been able to answer y'all's questions fairly well. It's been an absolute pleasure covering the news tonight, and I hope y'all found the news interesting and informational, along with our question segment as well. It's been an absolute pleasure once again, and I will see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow. Is today Friday? Nope, it's already
Today
Saturday.
Is
it's Saturday.
Friday.
It's the next
Saturday.
day. Yeah, so we will see y'all later on today, actually, because the new day has already started for us, at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover day 185 news of the war in Ukraine. Thank you all so much once again, and I will see you then. Good night, and take care.